we about ready? Going once? Going twice?
Next you.
Like we're ready. Tell me. So I'll call this our third budget meeting to order, and I will ask the village clerk and I'll decide, please call the roll.
Trustee Schechter. Here. Trustee Kay Levy. Here. Trustee Robinson.
Here.
Trustee Iverson.
Here.
Trustee L Levy.
Here.
Trustee Perslovan is absent. Mayor Tennis.
Here, and we have a quorum. We are on a tight schedule tonight. So grateful for everyone being here. Thank you all. See you all. We will start with our Board of Health. First item in the agenda is the presentation from our chairperson, Dr. Edward Lynn, and vice chair, no, she's not here. The information is found on page 39 of the budget message and page 53 of the proposed budget detail. So Dr. Lynn and our health director, Mike Charlie, take away.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm honored to be here. I'm very proud of what the Board of Health has been doing. And I'm also pleased to have had the opportunity to at least meet some of the new commissioners that I don't know yet. And I will start off just as an overview. Our Board of Health budget is actually modest. You know, we're asking for $800. And that remains changed from the previous fiscal year. So we're demonstrating some stewardship in that area. But the Board of Health has done a lot of things. I just want to briefly just update you so you're aware of what's going on. As you're quite aware, our role is to advise the Health and Human Services Department, the Village Board, and other departments on public health matters, and to be available to them for those needs. This year, our objectives are to deliver and continue to do this internal education and training for the Board of Health members. We devote a part of every meeting to Board of Health development and education because there's a lot of complex things that the Health and Human Services Department is involved with, and we feel that everyone should be knowledgeable about it. We're working on enhancing regional collaboration with neighboring health departments and organizations because as we learn, diseases and infections know no borders. And so it's important to have good relationships with the other communities that surround us. We also provide legislative input and public health guidance to the mayor and the trustees when needed. And we've been working on supporting health disparities because the social determinants of health are critically important. This is how people can maintain their health, but not necessarily what medication they take. We're been assisting in implementing and planning the next Skokie Community Health Plan. And we also very active Medical Reserve Corps that has actually was a good example. They responded when needed during the water crisis that had occurred. And the Board of Health members actively there involved in that. Now, in 25, fiscal year 25, one of the top things, and I actually instituted this because my background is in obstetrics and gynecology, I'm a reproductive healthcare specialist, was cannabinoid research and education. And I just want to take a moment just to update you. We invited an expert, Dr. Gerald Lycan, who's a researcher, but most importantly, he's a subject matter expert, and he presented on cannabinoids and their impact on health. These are not benign substances, and yet the public doesn't fully understand this, and toxicities occur. We're most concerned are pregnant women. Pregnant women should not be exposed to cannabinoids. And it's every week, a new study has come out just showing the toxicity and the problems it can cause the unborn fetus. And it's similarly in pediatric community, my colleagues will point out the same things. So I just let you know that because we can't control it. So what we decided to do was to try to develop an educational material, which was being distributed, kind of a fact sheet reminding people about the safe use. And the responsibilities associated with it. Another big issue that was kind of brought up to the level of the trustees, which many of you were involved with, and you may have heard about this, and that's the issue of backyard chickens. We, after studying the issue very carefully, determined that this was probably not a good idea at this point. And unfortunately, we actually were ahead of the puck, so to speak, on this one, when the avian flu has now been noted to be a problem with backyard chickens. And most recently, there's been a major salmonella outbreak in the United States from backyard chickens, which we knew about. And so there's a lot of health issues associated with it, which I won't perseverate on. You're all aware of our community flu clinics, where we don't offer flu, we offer vaccine. And that'll be coming up again in the fall. It's a major effort. It's amazing just how efficient and how well done it is. Same way when we did the COVID-19 vaccination clinics. I think the health department really did a great job working with our medical reserve corps. We also, and I think very importantly, we like to recognize public health partners in excellence. And this year, we gave out awards to a number of individuals who normally may not be recognized because we're not necessarily recognizing organizations, we're recognizing individuals. And so Deborah Grundinski and Joanna Coe were senior health insurance program volunteers. These are the people that work with the public, helping them get enrolled in Medicare. And they do a yeoman job as volunteers, and we wanted to recognize that. And last but not least, certainly, is my vice chair, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, Sybil Yao. Sybil has been a force of nature on the board. She joined the board about around the same time that I did, and she volunteers in so many different areas, and was one of the leading forces in developing our I-Plan this year. And continues with the Access to Healthcare team, which is one of our I-Plan goals. And she also volunteers with the Senior Reassurance Program. That is my presentation.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lynn. I would like to, before I open it up for questions from the board, I'd like to just compliment the Board of Health on the growth of the Medical Reserve Corps. And we learned the importance of the MRC during the pandemic. And I know there have been efforts to grow the Corps since then. We made a real effort during the pandemic, but I know those efforts have continued. And again, I applaud that. My understanding is there's been a very intentional effort to expand into mental health care professionals and even retired members of the clergy, which I think is really great. So I applaud that work, and I would strongly support its continuation. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and the staffing that Mike provides has been incredible, because that's also in addition to recruiting people, educating. We have quarterly educational programs, so people are really kept up to date.
Very good. Well, thank you. Open it up for questions. Trustee Schechter.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to meet you. Thanks for all your work. I'm just curious about your board's relationship with Skokie Hospital, and especially I'm thinking about the social determinants of health. Does the hospital do that kind of regular sort of study? So I know a lot of hospitals on a cycle, they do these in-depth.
Yeah, I can't speak authoritatively about, remember, Skokie Hospital is just one piece of a gigantic healthcare system. So it's predominantly orthopedics and some neurologic thing. It's not a general hospital anymore, unfortunately. I say that because I think Skokie deserves a general hospital, but that's another issue. It's another time.
The Endeavor system doesn't do a whole.
Well, they have ongoing research and they're doing things, but I'm
Yeah, so
What about the Sahelu study? Was that through Endeavor?
that was through Northwestern.
Northwestern.
Yeah, so the Health and Human Services Department, we have a really good relationship with Endeavor Health, and So we have staff that attend quarterly meetings, community meetings, and we also participate in their community health assessment that they have to conduct every 3 years. So we play an active role with that, and we engage regularly with their staff on the work they're doing with working with people that are most vulnerable. So yeah, we do have a relationship with them and we maintain that.
I'm wondering though, that work for the vulnerable in our community, we work with the federally qualified health centers. So that might be where those partnerships are stronger, Gail.
And it's just that there are these studies that hospitals have to do to look at their catchment area. And they're almost required to see what the gaps are. in Service.
Yeah, they are on the same, we all attend these meetings on a regular basis where the FQHC's representatives are there and other organizations. And they have representatives too.
Endeavor does?
Yeah.
Other questions for Dr. Lynn? Yes, trustee Robinson.
Just, yeah, I have a question. First of all, good to see you.
Yes, sir.
It's good to see you guys, the magic and the impact that you have in the community. Speaking of impact in the community, can you talk a little bit about your perspective and lens about rat mitigation?
Well, I know that, I'll just say that that was also one of the concerns about the backyard chickens. Because unfortunately, that was one of the types of situations that promote increase in the rat population. But I think we have good news. And I'll let Mike comment on that because he's aware of the fact of our infestation reports.
And so during the Health and Human Services report, I'm gonna go on a little more in depth about some of the stuff we're doing with the rat control program. But maybe I'll tease it by saying that over the last calendar year, we've actually reduced the number of open active cases by 59%. And if you can wait about 60 minutes or so, I'll be able to provide just a little more detail as to all the different steps we've taken and all the new programs and things we've implemented over the last year to accomplish that.
And
The board.
And I, like other members of the board, have been really educated about rat control and learned an enormous amount, which we were just unaware of before. So I feel much more comfortable, with understanding what the problem is and what the strategies are.
It's great. I always love that fact and fiction clarity. So looking forward to hearing that report.
Perception versus reality.
That's true.
Other questions for Dr. Lynn? Trustee Iverson?
I mean, your board and the work that you're doing, Mike, is extremely special, I think, but especially the Reserve Corps. It really strikes me. I would only ask given what you've already achieved, is there anything that you need from the board or from the village in order to continue or to expand what you're doing, especially with the Reserve Corps?
Well, again, not to open a whole can of worms, but clearly, our budget for the Board of Health doesn't really cover what it costs for the Reserve Corps. That comes from Health and Human Services. And these are all volunteers, so we're not really talking about personnel costs, but we do a lot of training and there's materials and things that are needed. So we're all very, very nervous about what's going to come forward this year with all of the saber rattling going on in Washington about cutting health budgets throughout the state. We know that in the state of Illinois, they're very concerned. I happen to, fortunately, I work on another board as a board member that is working with the governor's office to try to plug these gaps that we anticipate will be happening through philanthropic means, which is going to be kind of the new push that we never really had to struggle with before. So stay tuned, because I know that everyone in the village is probably concerned about how it's going to affect the village too.
Thank you, Doctor.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you for your patience with
We'll
us.
see you later.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening. The next item on the agenda is the presentation of the Commission on Family Services budget by Chairperson Harold Pine, assisted by staff member Melissa Bush.
Great.
I'm gonna pass it around.
Sure.
For sure.
Okay, well, first I want to thank and congratulate Mayor Tennis, village clerk Manal Desai, and all of the village trustees for a very successful campaign and election. So I really look forward to working with all of you over the next few years. I also want to thank Melissa and Mike Charlie and the Health and Human Services Division for all the help that the staff has provided our commission during the year. So the Commission on Family Services provides a forum to focus on a wide range of issues concerning Skokie's most vulnerable citizens. We present recommendations on policy, programs, and procedures to the mayor and to the board of trustees. So to better deal or address the issues in our community, several years ago, our commission established 3 subcommittees. Each was focused on specific subpopulations. So one on seniors, one on people with disabilities, and one on at-risk youth and families. So the 2026 village budget that you have does present our accomplishments in the previous year and objectives for 2026. I would like to take a few minutes to just summarize some of these accomplishments and objectives. That's okay. So during the summer, we facilitated the Produce Initiative, which was a monthly food and clothing drive at the farmers market. We collected approximately 7,400 pounds of fresh produce from generous vendors, about 1,100 pounds of non-perishable food and toiletries, and 175 bags of clothes. The fresh produce was brought to the Niles Township Food Pantry and quickly distributed because there is a considerable demand in our community. The bags of clothes were brought to the clothes closet of St. Paul Lutheran Church. And in this effort, we partnered with Village of Skokie, St. Paul Lutheran Church, and the Niles Township Food Pantry, all to make it a very successful endeavor. On April 14th, 2024, last year, the Disability Subcommittee held a town hall meeting to hear concerns of Skokie residents with disabilities. We partnered with Skokie Health and Human Services Division, the Public Library, Keshet, JCFS, the Douglas Center, and Shore Services. 21 community members attended the event, and they participated in small focus groups. We collected comments, generated a report, and which was reviewed by village personnel. We then presented the recommendations to the mayor and the village manager. Our principal recommendation was the village conduct an ADA self-assessment and develop a transition plan to meet the requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And I was very pleased, and I know Mayor Tennis also helped considerably in the 2026 village budget. There's a line item for an ADA advisor who will assist the village through the initial stages of the self-assessment and planning process. And I should add, the village has done a considerable amount and spent a considerable amount to make the village more accessible to people with disabilities. And the focus here is to look at, okay, what areas still need to be addressed and how do we go about doing it? And if necessary, to be able to spread the work over a several-year period. In May 2024, the At-Risk Youth and Family Services Subcommittee held a diaper drive. We partnered with the library, the fire department, police department, the food pantry, and several churches. Diapers were dropped off in multiple locations throughout the village. And also people were able to order diapers through Amazon, delivered directly to the Niles Township Food Pantry. So this collection, over 14,000 diapers were collected. It was very impressive. And I'm just going to pass around. This was our Mother's Day diaper drive. So the subcommittee just completed another diaper drive as of Mother's Day. The diapers delivered to the food pantry. I don't know how many were collected, but I heard it was very successful. And I should note, you're still welcome to participate in the drive. Although the collection centers aren't there, there is a QR code on what I'm passing around over there. Just point your phone at it and press the button. The activities that we have planned for the summer, again, we're going to facilitate the produce initiative and the food and clothing drive. Then on November 7th, our senior subcommittee will hold their Live Well, Age Well Senior Resource Fair. This was formerly the Boomers and Beyond Resource Fair, but we felt that was getting a little old for a title, so we updated it. This will be at the Oakton Community Center. In 2023, when we had the last event, we had 430 guests attend, 40 exhibitors, 6 speakers. Altogether, we consider that a real success and hoping to even better those numbers. We're partnering with the Skokie Health and Human Services Division, the Park District, the library, the Chamber of Commerce, CJE, North Shore Senior Center, and Advocate Health Services. So we requested the funds of $1,200, primarily for supplies for the produce initiative and for the pamphlets, flyers, posters, and signage to promote the various activities. Promotional materials we distribute will be at the Festival of Cultures, hopefully at the 4th of July parade and at the farmers market. So in conclusion, looking forward to working with everybody on programs that address the needs of Skokie's most vulnerable population. That's it. Questions?
Appreciate that. Good work you all do.
Thanks.
I do have a question real quick before opening it up, and I see trustee Lisa. The fresh produce initiative, that's is that still weekly?
Yes.
So that's weekly, and then the food and the non-perishable toiletry and clothing drive, that's monthly.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's another thing. If any of you, the farmers market is coming up, it's the 50th anniversary, and it's gonna be, a lot of fun on June 1st when it opens. But someday, I'd encourage you to come to the market about noon. And it closes at 12:30, and to watch what happens with this fresh produce initiative. Because when I viewed it several years ago, they go around with a wagon.
The red wagons.
The red wagons.
Wagons, everybody.
The farmers and the vendors are so generous with providing the produce. The produce goes to the church, doesn't it? And then, as I recall, our public works crews pick it up the next morning.
We work together, yeah.
Yes, so it is a partnership. Again, there's so many partners who contribute, and the outcome is that residents of Skokie and Niles Township come Monday or Tuesday morning, have an abundance of fresh seasonal produce to choose from at the Niles Township Food Pantry. So it's really one of the premier partnerships that help keep our community strong and uplift those who need uplifting. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if anybody has ideas at any point, we'd love to hear from you. And Always looking for additional good initiatives that we can.
Trustee Levy.
Yes.
So given the farmer's market was expanded into the winter season, do you have plans to also do produce and vendor pickup and partnerships? In the winter?
We did talk with Jennifer about that for this last winter, and she did start the process, but quickly realized that space and transportation was an issue. So those are some logistics that we needed to work out. She wanted to see how this last winter went, and then we'll see how we can help. We did offer our services for this last one.
And then also, how do you identify organizations or programs that you can partner with for outreach, donation, collection, et cetera?
So as part of Health and Human Services, we're constantly working with community partners and listening and hearing that, you know, Early Childhood Alliance, for example, needs diapers. So we've got that connection there. We've chosen the Niles Township Food Pantry as a large benefactor of some of these initiatives because it really serves the community. They're really set up to do that. They're already there. They're already established. They're a great partner. They've worked really well with us. So.
And another example, the Senior Resource Fair, where we've had exhibitors over a number of years. Some have come to us and said, you know, I really like this event. Is there any way we can help in that also? But there we kind of, a number of the groups that work with us are ones who've done that for a number of years already.
And I'll add that commissioners also have great ties to the community.
Right.
Trustee Schechter.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to meet you. Wearing my other hat, not as a trustee, but I'm the full-time executive director of an organization that serves the elderly, housing opportunities and maintenance for the elderly. And just a suggestion, I was meeting last week with Paula Plasta. It's actually a former director of home, and she was formerly the head of the Illinois Department on Aging. And she was suggesting that Skokie, that we consider becoming a dementia-friendly community. And I don't know if I just pulled it up on my webpage. It's now like 29 communities in Illinois that have that designation, but it's essentially, you know, having resources and education and taking a look at what it would take to be a dementia-friendly community. It's not a specific development, but just a thought. I think it's a great idea. And the other thing too, another consideration is being just in general an age-friendly community. That's a you might be familiar with that, a World Health Organization designation, and just taking a look at all aspects of you know, every sector and to what extent we're age-friendly, not just for seniors, but young people. Those are just a couple of thoughts. And then finally, one last thing is I was talking to some Skokie parents last week and who have a real interest in this commission. And, you know, doing more around it. I know you do some touch on youth somewhat, but maybe a little bit more in depth, specifically around youth outreach, youth engagement, activities for young people outside of school.
These are great ideas. Another one would be possibly looking for summer job opportunities for school
Great idea.
kids. Yeah. We'll look into those. And the nice thing about having the commission broke up into the subcommittees is we could take components of this and say, okay, this is a subcommittee, small group that can dig into these particular issues and hopefully generate some ideas where we can provide value.
One last question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to come before the budget committee. See ya.
everyone.
Hello. So next item on the agenda is presentation of the Human Relations Commission budget by Chairperson Maria Monastero Bueno. Hello, everyone. In tandem with Amanda Sabri.
Yes.
The staff liaison. The information is found on page 37 of the budget message and page 32 of the proposed budget detail.
Wonderful. Good evening, Mayor Tennis, village trustees and staff. As Mayor told you, I'm Maria Monastero Bueno, Chair of the Human Relations Commission, and I'm happy to share an overview of our commission's work. With me tonight is Amanda Sabri, our staff liaison from Health and Human Services. Our commission was created in the 1960s to encourage understanding and respect between Skokie residents with various racial, ethnic, cultural, and religious backgrounds. In addition, our commission further expands its diversity mission through partnerships and programming. I'd like to tell you about the work that we focused on this past year. First off is our block party promotion and awards. Our commission is a huge proponent of hosting block parties. Commissioners proudly attend block parties each season, helping to build community spirit. Our annual block party forum, which we just hosted a few weeks ago at the library, welcomes residents to learn how to host a party, features past award winners, fun activities, and support from the Skokie Police and the Go Green Skokie. We also honor outstanding events with our Block Party of the Year awards, encouraging celebration across all neighborhoods, especially those with multi-family housing. In 2024, 79 parties were hosted throughout the season, and we're hoping to surpass 80 this year. The next area of focus I'd like to speak on is our fair housing outreach. We help enforce some Skokie's fair housing ordinance and share information through village channels and events. On June 11th, 2024, we co-hosted a powerful event with the Skokie Public Library and the Heritage Museum, exploring the history and future of fair housing. Highlights included a presentation on the history of fair housing in Skokie, a panel with members of Skokie's first Black family, and insights from real estate and advocacy experts. Open Communities, a lead fair, conducted a fair housing presentation for our commissioners in February. In honor of Fair Housing Awareness Month, our commission worked with the communications department to distribute fair housing awareness information to community members through the Skokie Scoop, Facebook, and the village's website during the month of April. We also support the Festival of Cultures and the Skokie's Pride celebrations. Every year we host a table at these events promoting community engagement, block party planning, and fair housing awareness. Another area that we've worked on is the Unite Against Racism program in partnership with the YWCA Evanston North Shores Equity Institute. In the past, we've promoted and attended their panel. Last year it was called Practicing Solidarity and Imagining New Futures as part of our ongoing commitment to racial equity. And as a commission, we're discussing ways to partner in the future with the YWCA. Hate and bias response. The procedure for early identification and intervention in initial incidents of hate was recently finalized and presented to the board. The Human Relations Commission will play an integral role in this procedure by reviewing hate incident and hate crime data provided by the Skokie Police and providing recommendations to the village regarding ways to engage the community collaboration. To get a better understanding of our role in this work, the Commission participated in a training on October 8th on hate crimes and hate incidents. This training was provided by Senior Attorney General Donita Farr and Skokie Police Chief Jesse Barnes. The next step will be for the Skokie Police Department to come to one of our commission meetings to present the most recent data on hate crimes and bias incidents within the village. Staff are working with Chief Barnes to coordinate this presentation for a meeting in the near future. We also did a really neat thing for Women's History Month. In March, we co-sponsored a Women's History Walk with the Skokie Heritage Museum spotlighting local trailblazers and key moments in the fight for equality, including Skokie's first female doctor and milestones in reproductive rights. And then there was our project on the Village Seal. In November of 2018, our commission began a discussion of the Village Seal, which at the time featured Native imagery and had been used since the 1940s. The discussion prompted our commission to periodically review and further examine the cultural appropriateness of the seal over the next few years. Then beginning in 21, the village and some of our commissioners, including myself, initiated a formal review of the Village Seal, including a collaboration with the Skokie Public Library, the Skokie Heritage Museum, the Mitchell Museum of the American Indian, now, forgive me, Gitchigamin Indigenous Nations Museum, as well as a comprehensive study of national peer-reviewed research and outreach to Chicago area Native communities, culminating in a December 2022 listening session. Following public engagement and extensive research, the Village Seal Review Committee concluded that the previous Village Seal was not an accurate representation of the tribes historically from the Skokie area, and that the seal was in conflict with how some members of the Native community would like to be represented. Additionally, the review found that depictions of Native people can reinforce stereotypes and prejudice. In February of 23, the Village Seal Review Committee issued a report unanimously recommending that the village design a new seal for use on official documents and materials representing the history of Skokie's land, the Native community, the possibilities of Skokie's future, and the richness of Skokie's multicultural community. After working closely with 2 local artists, we proudly presented the new Village Seal to the village trustees late in 24, with the final version presented this past March. The new Village Seal is a collaborative effort that represents our village's past, present, and future, and it was an honor for our commission to be involved with the redesign. This concludes the overview of the Human Relations Commission work. Thank you on behalf of the commission for your ongoing support to the Skokie community. We look forward to continuing our commission's work to further an understanding and respect among Skokie residents, celebrating the diversity and inclusion of all in our community.
Thank you, Maria.
Welcome.
Couple things before we open it up. Thank you for your work on the Village Seal. It was a long process.
Well, we started it
Right,
many
you
years
and I
ago.
worked on it
Yes, we
together.
did. Yeah.
And there was a lot of listening involved and a lot of patience that was required. So you got it across the
We did
finish
it.
line, so
Amen.
in a way that was really beneficial to the community. So kudos to that. The hate crimes report, that's something that I'd like the board to be briefed on as well. Whether we receive a copy of what G. Barnes provides, John, whether we could have that at a village board meeting. It's of interest, I don't believe, to all of us. So,
And it's good to know that it's very explicit in hate crime versus hate incident.
yes,
So that'll be in whatever literature you receive.
yes. Who's got questions? Trustee Robbins.
I had just a question. I was gonna comment on the Village Seal, shout out to former trustee for Queen for her partnership and work as well. As the hate incident and hate crime, we got that over the line. So it's good work. Thank you for putting that on the agenda for maybe near future to talk a little bit more about. That was a lot of work too.
Yes.
The work with your commission is integral in trying to combat some incidents that we can't manage, because we don't keep record of. So that's great. So now we keep record, now we manage, now we can why. Then the third thing, the fair housing outreach, again, which I appreciate your work on that. So a lot of folks, thank you for your leadership in that, and all the commissioners, all the work that all you guys do, gotta do the work. The lion's share of the work, the boots on the ground, so I just want to lift that up.
Trustee Schechter.
Yeah, I also wanted to echo Trustee Robinson's gratitude and kudos. You know, I just know from my one fair housing work, Skokie's Human Relations Commission is the oldest in the state of Illinois. That's something to be proud of. And things have really, I would say, improved in terms of the diversity and acceptance, and more than just acceptance, you know, affirmatively appreciating people of different cultures and races. And the only thing that I would offer is that, you know, perhaps the Human Relations Commission consider maybe deepening some of the sort of neighbor to neighbor work. Because other human relations, I remember when Evanston they were the only suburb with a paid human relations commission, and their director, she actually was a mediator, and she would step in and do some of that. I'm not saying that, you know, we moved to a paid human relations department, but having that ability to deal with some of those cross cultural, you know, misunderstandings.
Well, in the past, we worked very closely with the village. We did the Know Your Neighbor program,
I was
which has
top
been
of mind.
my dream to get back.
I would love to read, so
Yeah.
the Know Your Neighbor, Know Your Community program was in place from 2009 to 2011, and we funded it with grant money from the Chicago Community Trust. And what it consisted of were asking residents to open their homes for coffees for their neighbors. And we thought maybe some people don't want to have a block party, but this was a way the village provided with this grant money. We provided the host with kits of name tags, a map of the world where their neighbors could show where they were from, conversation starters. We even provided coupons for coffee, either kosher or a traditional coffee cake or both. And over the course of those 3 years, we had, I would say close to 100. So there was, we did it 3 different times, and we learned lessons. The first year we did it in October, just as the time was changing. And people were like, do it in the spring next time. So we learned lessons along the way. A staff member and an elected official attended each one. Everybody signed up and went in teams, and they were fantastic. So
we'd like to see how
yeah,
similar program might get put back.
Lisa.
What is the Human Relations Commission's appetite for partnering with Meetup on Main and or taking over Meetup on Main, given your focus on block parties and community engagement and neighbors knowing each other, which is really the part of the mission of Meetup on Main. The other mission being to draw attention to underserved areas of Skokie, but as Meetup on Main, as an event series exists now, seems like it dovetails really nicely with the commission's mission.
Well, I mean, it's something that we could definitely discuss with the commissioners. Sometimes we struggle to get a quorum in this room for our meetings, so it's completely volunteer, so it is a bit of a challenge to get folks. It's kind of the same ones that tend to do everything, so it's definitely, you know, I need to learn more about what's involved, so maybe we can have you come to a meeting and give a presentation to us and let us know more about what's involved.
And I'm pleased to let you know that the file of individuals from this community who are applying to serve on the volunteer advisory boards and commissions is getting thicker by the day. So we're hoping to infuse some new energy into our boards and commissions.
That's
So
wonderful to hear.
Yes.
Thank you.
and we'll be looking at that soon.
Okay.
Trustee Kamani Levy and then trustee Iverson.
Thank you so much.
Say, how do you measure the success of the initiatives that are happening in the
You know, that's a good question because it's very, they're kind of intangibles in a way. You know, every year at our forum for the block parties, we have more people attend. So that's right off the bat. We had a sellout crowd for the women's walk. We tend to see, did we give everything away and need more of the fun things that we give at the various like Fourth of July parade and all the things, right? It's less easy to know the greater impact, but I think as we move more towards doing something like a Know Your Neighbor, it's going to have larger repercussions and larger effect on the community.
Trustee Iverson.
I just wanted to, I love the idea of Know Your Neighbor. I think that's just this afternoon, I had a brouhaha in the alley. And, you know, I happen to know one of the fellows well enough. And the simple fact that I knew him and knew his name settled everyone down. And neighbors come together when they're all angry, or they can come together when they're all happy. And the block parties that you do, which are very numerous, and you know, neighbors are fantastic.
There are other things that that are kind of, what would you call them? People just tend to do things on their blocks their own way. So there'll be groups that have First Fridays. You know, just bring a chair and a glass of something and end up on our driveway, that kind of thing. It takes a lot less effort than a block party or a Know Your Neighbor thing. It's a little more casual. But that is something that we also have been kicking around to try to at least give a structure to.
I think Northbrook calls them Flamingo Fridays.
Flamingo Fridays, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I did want to mention too, separate from the commission, but the Human Services Department does work with the Center of Conflict Resolution to provide mediation. So we can work with individual neighbor to neighbors who are having difficulty. And if they're both open to mediation, can provide that mediation service. So that's outside of the commission, but just so people are aware that we provide that service.
Okay, we went around.
Yeah, this is great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
So the next item on the agenda is presentation of the Board and Fire and Police Commission budget by Chairperson Will Evans. And next evening is personnel for Human Resources Director, Deborah Stinson.
Thank you all. Hello to all of the new electors. I know I've met few tonight. Some I have to meet, some I've known for a long time. And I think especially the mayor. I'm gonna donate all my time back because I don't have a presentation to give, and we'll open up for questions. Seeing that police and fire was last night, you know, anything I would have to add would be pretty much redundant because my job, our job as a commission is to recruit and hire firefighters and police officers for the village.
So for our new trustees, could you in maybe 10 sentences sum up, give a snapshot of what you do, what the commission does in a typical meeting or a typical process? I say 10 sentences, but 5 minutes.
Okay.
Let's say.
So the you know, I wish fire and police were here, and I probably all this is redundant. I would say our job is very difficult for police. It's not as difficult for fire, as I mentioned to someone earlier. Fire is always welcome anywhere. They're, you know, highly rated. And when we get candidates that come in and they're usually ready to be firefighters, it's a different quality life. It's very difficult now to attract and retain police officers. There is, we just had a list on today where we go out, we test, and that pool, you start with a big pool and it shrinks down to a small pool. And it's even a smaller pool by the time you try to hire someone. There is currently, I think, 10 openings projected for police, given that, we know of some law facility departments, of retirement, so it is we have to do something. Background checks, we do ride along. It is a lot of man hours behind the scenes that don't show up in my budget per se. It's all part of our partnership with the fire and police, and especially police. It is, I think, a big challenge. I think the village has to face. We've talked to the village manager periodically just to brainstorm, and I think we are probably going to have to do some more brainstorming to try to bend with the time so that we can get ahead of this issue. When you hire, when if we hire someone today, then really we aren't getting the return 2 years from now. So we've got to get ahead of that because the attrition is hiring. I think since Chief Barnes has been in, we've hired 15, people, and we're still at 10. We're about 10 below. So it is a very difficult, a lot of man hours that we get when we promote fire. It's a lot of time for the commission because we have to, as we promoted lieutenants, we have to sometimes interview 27 people. So those hours really aren't in the budget at the time it takes for the commission to do it for.
Well, thank you for that overview. I'm noting the $8,200 budget increase, and it says in here, it's specifically for costs associated with the promotional processes and for both fire and police. So,
Yeah, we have a lot of outside service.
right, it's a lot of work that you do, and it is a challenge, and I appreciate our human resource director's creativity and your perseverance with trying to advertise and cultivate candidates that reflect our community. I know that's not an easy thing to do, so thank you. So, any questions for Mr. Evans or Ms. Stinson? Trustee Ivers.
Just very quickly, I think the answer is gonna be extremely complicated. So if so, this is another question, but when recruiting, is there anything in particular that is an obstacle to getting the people that you need to fill those kinds of positions?
Okay.
Yes, they don't want the job.
And
So, I mean, really, that's what it boils down to, lack of interest.
in the profession.
Yes, and it's challenging because we have to do this on a regular basis. Typically, we recruit for entry-level police officers, entry-level firefighters. And there's a 2-year list, recruitment list that we can work off of. We used to have 300 people. Today we have 50 if we're lucky.
Is this a problem like
Yeah.
lots of communities?
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. And we're all vying for the same candidate pool. So, some of the people are not only on our eligibility list, but they may be on some other municipalities list as well. So it's the person that gets it is the one that gets to them first. So
And just because they're on that list doesn't mean we're gonna hire them.
that's true.
I think that's, those are numbers. Those numbers don't mean that we can pull 10 people from that pool.
So there's a real pressure on our organization to be competitive with salaries and with working conditions. I will tell you from my time consulting after I retired that our police station is of tremendous benefit to us, I believe, because even at it'll be 15 years old in October, but it's still considered one of the premier facilities. Trustee Kamani Levy.
There was a, thank you. I'm doing the, thank you for listening to this. I understand, sorry, and I sat on public safety commission and. Yeah, it's same. But there was a public comment made during one of these budget meetings about the salary. Is that a concern? Do you see that as one of the additional reasons, like the top two?
Well, here's the thing, we believe that our salaries have been adjusted. So increases have been made, we just completed the firefighter and the police contract, union contracts. There were raises in their pay raises. And there were also raises in there in terms of equity. So that they would get equity adjustments. One of our contracts, the police officer contract has it in the contract language itself that an equity adjustment is reviewed to see whether or not that needs to happen in the last year of the contract. So we are definitely doing everything we can so that we can stay competitive from the salary perspective. I mean, that's something that we do village-wide, and we certainly do it with the public safety positions because we definitely have to. But it's challenging. We had our most recent, we just did an entry-level police officer recruitment process, and we actually had the test at Fairview Elementary School here in Skokie on March 29th. We had 357 requests for applications during the recruitment process. 73 people showed up. No, 73 people completed all of that, completed the application packet. On the day of the test, we had 49 people to show up. And 42 of that 49 passed the exam. And so we have an eligibility list, which will be approved by the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners on Monday at the meeting. So we've got a list of 42 potential candidates for entry-level police officer positions.
I have another question. The chief talked about I think it's called fire for, is it called fire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we have data or numbers on the numbers of students that come out of that program and matriculate potentially into roles with the departments?
I don't have that. The fire department would actually have that information. I don't have it readily available.
And the Fire Explorer program is a newer program. I think it started last year or the year before, so we haven't seen the long-term effects. I know with the police.
I'd like to give a shout out to and help me with what his rank, Eric McHugh. Sergeant. When I started with the village, Eric McHugh was a student at one of the Niles Township High Schools and was an explorer. And he's one of our sergeants now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just note we don't have the same challenges in fire. Of hiring and retaining people,
Oh, okay.
right? It's not, it's a challenge, but it's nowhere the challenge that we had.
And then,
Yeah, please.
my counterparts have commented that they are envious of how many applicants we're receiving for the police officer. So we're struggling and we need more, but other communities are even struggling more than we are. And so it is a national problem, and we're working diligently, the commission, human resources, the police department. And, there's a lot of effort being extended to try to overcome this, and we're making progress, but there's more progress on this.
My hope is that it's cyclical, like so many things in society are, and that at some point the pendulum is gonna swing and there will be increased interest. Trustee Lee.
You speak to the process, when you're screening candidates. We hear that there are, bad apples in different police departments that get shuffled between municipalities. Can you speak to, what the process is to screen out those bad apples that may have a questionable record in another municipality? And, not having them come here?
Well, we do. The screening process includes a polygraph exam. Polygraph, background check, the psych evaluation. And so, and we do that for both our entry level as well as our lateral entry. Now, that's another thing that I didn't tell you about, but we have a lateral entry program. Those are experienced police officers. And we run that recruitment effort for the entire year, from January through December of every year, to secure candidates. In fact, I'm very pleased to say that one of our lateral candidates was hired by us and will be sworn in on Monday at the board meeting. So we're kind of excited about that. But there's every candidate goes through these processes. And, you know, sometimes they come through those processes, those different stages with and flying colors. And then a person starts to work and you see something different. I mean, it's just like with any other type of position that you're staffing, that you're hiring for. You don't really know what you have until you get it.
And I'd like to add, the one thing we didn't, we do interview, that is the commission's job, the 5 of us, we interview everyone. And I would say, we feel we set a very high bar and we don't accept that. You know, that has not been our experience. We don't take chances on people, we don't give them chances. And even though we have this great demand, we're not going to take someone that we feel isn't a fit. And we have a great police department here at the village, and that's our responsibility to keep it up here, that it's the leading edge. And we'd rather go without than to hire somebody that's questionable.
What I think is really to our benefit under Chairperson Evans' leadership, I have observed a very strong alignment of the commission, the board. You all seem like you work together very well. And that's important with all of our commissions, and you see it across the board, but certainly so with your work. So thank you for leading that.
And our work, the last one is, our work isn't just at the commission meeting. We have to work before.
Right.
We do a lot of work just to get to the meeting. So that in the meeting, we are really a lot of time interviewing, but we have so many candidates and so many positions still. But we have a lot of work to do, like this morning, getting the police chief getting a hold of me to sign our eligibility list. That's I think one thing that we've done is we've been very flexible in our time trying to meet committees where we could meet anytime. Unfortunately, we do anytime, anywhere, add in another meeting. We do whatever it takes to try to fill the need we have here in the village.
Well, thank you. We all appreciate your hard work. Yes, please.
There's a lot of papers. Am I reading this accurately that the entirety of the recruitment budget falls solely on the commission, or is there any shared with groups? I wasn't able to identify.
Well, the recruitment efforts we do for the police, for the sworn police, entry-level police officers, lateral police officers, and entry-level firefighters. That's the group that the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners hired for. But so it's not the entire department.
No, there's funds in it.
From a funding and a budgetary perspective, let me expand a little bit. So within the police department, we have dedicated a police officer within the last few years as a recruiter. And so that police officer is still budgeted within the police department's budget, but that person's 100% of the time is allocated to recruitment, trying to establish relationships with people that are of age to take the power test and to really encourage people to apply when we're advertising. We also have a general advertising budget for open positions, and that's in the human resources budget. And so it's the Board of Fire and Police Commission budgets for the promotional exams and for the professional services, but there are other expenditures in the police department and human resources.
The field training officers, we got to send them to the academy. There's a lot of costs that is associated with hiring and training police officers and firefighters.
Thank you very much.
I try to give more time. Well, appreciate that. Right away.
You're down. So the next item on the agenda is the presentation of the Plan Commission budget by Chairperson Paul Luke and Staff Liaison Johanna Nyden, our Community Development Director. Top of page 37 and page 21.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. Well, this past year, we've been pretty busy. We've had about 32 cases. And I'm not gonna break too much of it down for you, but a lot of the site plan approval cases were a lot of housing, new housing units that are coming into the village. And we've had a number of who contractors have already started construction of the projects out of Orchard. One being a conversion from an office building complex to a residential, which I think is great, yeah. And then moving forward, we have case just recently approved the case at Lincoln and Oakton for retail and residential. So we've been pretty busy this year. Yeah, we've also tackled a couple of zoning amendment cases, some subdivision cases, a street vacation. So all that falls within our purview in the Plan Commission. Also last year in December, the commission held in one of our meetings, we had a class on how Plan Commission operates, and we invited members of the commission in which was excuse me, which was led by the Illinois APA and the Paul University Chadwick Institute of Metropolitan Development. Now, it was very fact finding. We learned a lot, and I had proposed to Joanna and to Kate Patillo that perhaps we should hold another class. You know, for real members of the board. I think it would benefit from kind of a perspective of how the commission works and the standards that we can go by. Also, to talk about standards, we did deny a application for a residential retail unit, which we thought was couldn't meet the scope of standards. So we got involved with that, and I think that's about it.
I was going to add, thank you. I was going to ask if the meeting that you described, the training session had been taped. Because I was thinking it. So we'll see whether it's a matter of getting the video link out to everyone, or we've got a lot coming up. So if we would schedule something, we might have to wait a few months.
Oh, no,
But in the meantime, maybe we can get that video link out to everyone.
Yes, it's available for any of the
Great.
the new trustees to look at. I would advise you to look at it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? Trustee, listen, leave me, and then we'll go to this side of the table.
So, okay, I have a couple actually. So number one, the comprehensive plan, what is the timeline to update these chapters that are from 2003 to 2014?
Well, the comprehensive plan is basically a living unit, and it keeps evolving. I don't think we have a definite date.
Well,
but
that's part of my talking points later this evening, but I'll give you a sneak peek.
I would love to hear more about that, but we've talked about developing a timeline.
Okay,
So more to come on that.
okay, my next question is, does the Human Commission have a way to shepherd people through the entire process?
That is not our.
It's not in your purview.
It's not
at
our
all?
purview, it's not our responsibility.
Okay, so, all right, then, never mind, I'm done.
We're looking at other ways of doing that, so more to come on that soon. Okay. Trustee Schechter, then trustee trustee Schechter, and then we'll go to trustee Connolly.
I also have a number of questions. Thank you. One is, do you plan to change, so I know with every staff and with every demo, there's a set of criteria that you're always measuring by. But that set of criteria doesn't seem to have changed at all since the new housing chapter.
You're talking about requirements for a plan commissioner?
For every for every development, there's a chart, it's like a table. that-
I see.
Yeah,
Well, it depends on the type of case it is. If it's a subdivision case, it's a drive-through request.
but like for housing,
So the findings of fact is listed in our zoning code. And so one of the pieces of the chapter implementation from the housing subcommittee that reports to the plan commission. We're intending that they will make some recommendations as we implement that chapter that will potentially include some reflection of the housing chapter in that findings of fact.
that's good to hear. And I noticed that in here, there's not the incorporation of the housing subcommittee with the plan commission and that work. Is there a plan? And I read it also with this feeling future thunder, but is there a plan to do an actual housing study?
Well, again, that would be up to the professional staff. They have to initiate that,
So
because we don't write ordinances.
that is part of a little later in the evening.
Yes.
But again, I will give you the preview. The housing, one of the groups within that housing subcommittee is working on a housing needs study with staff. So we are anticipating that we'll bring that later this year.
And then actually, another question, I was talking to a council member in Evanston. And she was telling me that one of the things that they have initiated as part of their plan process is, having community meetings, as for when developers are getting ready to make
Well, in the past, we relied on the professional staff, on planning staff, as a developer to get together to have a neighborhood meeting, which they have done.
I mean, I think it maybe you're aware of this, is it codified there?
No.
Oh, it's not just.
It's voluntary on the developer's part.
Actually, I have other questions, but I guess. I'm gonna save it for the community development department.
Okay.
Trustee Kamani Dini.
I think I came to understand that this commission recruits or draws businesses to Skokie. Is that accurate?
No, the commission does not draw people. We don't actively go out. I mean, is that what you're asking, or?
They approve plans.
Yeah,
For development, whether it's business, housing, yes.
basically, we determine land usage.
Okay, so, yes, accurate. All right,
They may have been referring to the Economic Development Commission.
maybe, yes. That's closer to their charge, yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Trustee Iverson.
Sort of a question. The packages that you put together before a board meeting. I think they're really well organized and thorough, incredibly thorough. And personally, I think they're pretty perfect. However, I have met with people who have been, they'll start telling me what's missing, and I'll say, no, that's in there. You just didn't see it. And, if you get to this page, there's, these recommendations or these conditions, they're listed. And so I'm not even sure what my question is, but I don't know if it's a table of contents or something to help people find things. I'm not, because the packages can be so long.
Yeah, we appreciate that comment. I think over the past couple of years since I arrived, we've tried to fine tune and add and how links are connected back and forth. So definitely if there's something specific, we take feedback from the manager's office on ideas for readability and user friendliness.
Thank you for the feedback.
Anything else? Thank you. More to come from Johanna. Okay, next up.
Sure.
The zoning board of appeals budget, by Chairperson Brian O'Donnell. And his screen person. Brian Augustine, it's the Bryans.
It's the Brian and Brian show, yeah. Hello, everyone, Madam Mayor, trustees, staff, There's one, a petitioner has an ask that is in excess of 10% of what is codified. So it's kind of like over and above a special case. I think in the years that I've been the chairperson, I've appeared before the board less than a handful of times in those particular matters. The zoning board of appeals has remained below 5 cases for each of the past several years. We're projected to review 3 cases in fiscal year 25. ZBA cases are expected to remain low. Why is this? If you look at the plan commission reviews a couple dozen cases a year, and whereas the zoning board of appeals only might do 3 or 4. We're kind of a board of last resort. People don't want to see us unless they absolutely positively have to. They have no further recourse. It benefits any potential petitioner to work stuff out with staff beforehand. That way they can avoid going to the zoning board of appeals. Why? Because they have to pay a fee. They have to serve notice to the surrounding people that are affected by their request. It sets back their project several months at times. So we're kind of the in case of emergency break glass sort of thing. So and which is fine. The zoning board of appeals is created by the statutes of the state of Illinois and by the ordinances of the village of Skokie for the purpose of granting proper case relief from the strict terms of our zoning ordinances. So, it's a pretty thick binder, and after all these years, I still don't know it in and out like this guy does. So, that's really all I have. You can see, like what our regular budget is. We, as far as I can remember, we've never exceeded it. Why? It's because of a lack of cases that we have. The budget is worked out for like an extreme case workload. We meet on the first and third Wednesdays of every month. So, potentially they have 24 meetings a year. Well, we only usually have like about half a dozen if we're lucky. So in that case, we save the taxpayers a lot of money. That's really all I have. Staff, you have anything you want to say? No. Any questions?
Trustee Schechter. What are the typical cases that we get? What's the nature?
To give you an example, I happen to have in front of me one of the motions to grant variance or a motion to deny variance. And these are several of the things that we see. The width of a lot at a building line, impermeable surface, which has to do with asphalt, blacktop, concrete, over too much of a permeable area, whether it be gravel, grass, sand, etc. Structure height. As a matter of fact, we heard a structure height case not too long ago where it was in order to maintain. Now, what that is when somebody gets a permit and they build over and above what they submitted to Brian and the staff. It could have been an oopsie, or it could have been just, blatant disregard, but that's the zoning board of appeals has to determine each individual case and rule on its own merits. In this particular one, because the structure height request to maintain wasn't overly egregious, it actually blended in with the surrounding neighborhood. The one commissioner that brought forth the motion to maintain did an awesome job on it. So anyway, so structure height, front yard requirements, side yard requirements, rear yard requirements, off-street parking and loading requirements, which is usually a lot of small business. We see the small businesses along Main Street, along Oakton Street that were built decades ago. The off-street requirements back then are significantly different than they are now. So if somebody wants to have a beauty salon or a dentist office or something of that nature, and they don't have enough off-street parking, they have to come to us for relief. And usually if there's enough parking in the neighborhood, and again, each case is judged on its own merits, and we take it from there. So off-street parking and loading requirements, coverage of principal building to land floor area ratio, because we have one big mansions in Skokie. And then recently, something we've gone over a lot more is signage requirements. Signage has become kind of cause celeb, I guess I would say, in Skokie. We don't want to have too many signs on a particular elevation. They can't be too big. They can't conflict with existing stuff. So we hear that as well. So that's just a little bit of what we hear and what we see. So,
Other questions? Trustee Iverson.
yes, Jim.
If a developer finds himself in front of the CBA.
Okay.
And is not content with your decision, the next step would be court.
Yes.
And if that happened, two questions actually.
Okay.
If that happens, whose budget does that come out of? And then secondly, in your memory, has it happened?
So there have been appeals from the ZBA, and that's heard up in the second municipal district, and that would come out of our budget.
Thank you.
I cannot remember one within the last several years.
I remember one when Ralph was director.
Yeah, it's been a few years. It's been a few years.
A long time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Bert.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, everyone.
Brian, you're gonna stay put. Brian number 2.
Yeah, that's right.
So the next item on the agenda.
Hello, my name is Mike Link. I chair the Appeals Commission and have done so for I don't know how many years, since probably before you were hired.
I believe so.
But at any rate, so just a little education on what we do. We're kind of the first stop before somebody gets a building permit, residential cases, facade cases. We used to hear a lot of signs, but now the staff does that. Anything that's visible to the community, we see it, we look at it, we evaluate it, we rule on it. So that's kind of what we do. And then from us, sometimes it will go on the plan to Paul. Sometimes that works in reverse. It depends if it's a case we're doing with one now. Sometimes it goes to plan before us because it's just makes more sense that way. If the case isn't going to make it through planning, so you're just wasting our time to reviewing it. Last year we did 58 cases. We've been busier in years prior, but it's been pretty stable like that ever since. I don't know we've been about 50 to 60 for
2 years ago, the cases were down. Last year, there was an increase of about 10 cases.
And then, but I remember times where we had to meet 2 times a month, but right now we're at 1 time a month. We have our commission is full. We have 7 commissioners, and that's about it. It's, we're the first stop, but let you ask questions and then we'll quarter of time here. It's moving.
Trustee
Yes.
Lonnie Levy.
Hi.
Is the case record keeping digital?
So, I'm sorry.
The record keeping, the case record keeping?
Yes, it's projected on, it's projected during our meetings. And then it's also on the, agenda, and there's also a YouTube, it's also on the YouTube channel. So all those meetings are as well.
So that's the meeting, but like case. It says if you keep a record of.
There is a packet in the agenda on the Skokie website, and you can look at all the cases on. Yeah, so any interested parties can see what's coming up in this per case.
And that maintained by the IT department.
I would imagine. It's not by me, I can tell you that much.
No, I put the packet together, that's, the agenda's uploaded the week before the meeting, the entire packet's usually uploaded for Thursday or Friday before. The packet then gets uploaded to our permitting software also, so if somebody's reviewing a building permit application that has gone to the appearance commission, one of our staff members is reviewing that the elevations in the packet matches the elevations that have been submitted with the permit.
And that's all available on the agenda center.
Yeah, and all the agenda stuff is on the website.
And then internally, we have a document management system for our software. And so one of the search fields is by address. And so any document that has been associated with an address, we're able to pull up in that method as well.
That was my second question. Trustee Iverson and then trustee.
The ability to pull up the information by face or by address. Because on, online in the regular website, you know, we can skip through by, agenda by event. And, you know, if we know where the cases occurred. But is there been consideration given to maybe listing the cases? So that if you were interested in 2025-01A. You could click upon it and then get the documents related to that case without having to find the relevant appearance agendas.
Yeah, are you asking just to search for the specific case through the Skokie website?
Yes, essentially, yes.
I believe in the community portal, if you search under the address, I'll confirm with that. If you can, that you should be able to find any associated public hearing case with that address. I'm not sure if you can search by case number.
I have to find my case number and it's not there.
The address, I believe the community portal is more based off the address that you could search, and you should be able to find that information. And the case number, I didn't believe it was.
Trustee Lissalini. Do we have a style guide that is available for people to look at in terms of like, what are
we looking for?
Yeah, what are you looking for? And if not, is that something that can be created?
No, that there is something, it's a document,
It's an older document.
it's an older document that's there. It's also,
there.
it's also available to a petitioner, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. It is an older document, though, it has that been.
So.
But that doesn't mean that we necessarily abide by it in its entirety.
Right, so if it's an older document, is it something that can be updated to, more modern standards?
It's not, it's really about aesthetics, and it's hard to update something to somebody's interpretation of aesthetics. It might be a guideline, like the staff would like to see a balance of windows from elevation to elevation. It's not about, we don't like purple.
Correct, yeah, it's not so much specifically about a certain material per se, like Chairman Link mentioned, like it's more, window placement, some symmetry with that, and not having windows haphazardly placed, and then leaving one elevation completely blank, so your neighbor looks at a solid brick wall. So it's not so much material based as to just more of a general guide as to trying to kind of keep things symmetrical, matching existing materials for an addition, or that there's some sort of symmetry with that.
If it was very strict, then you could just run the plans through AI and we wouldn't request anybody.
Right, I'm not asking for us to be Santa Fe or there's
Right.
stucco.
Exactly.
What I'm asking for though is do we have something that's user friendly for people who are coming before the appearance commission so that they can basically already have their I's dotted and T's crossed? Because where this is coming from is that I have heard from constituents that the appearance commission seems very capricious in its decision making. And I am concerned that if we're not communicating what the standards are or what the expectations are, then
we get into a process where people are very dissatisfied with village services and they get very upset with the whole process and it delays, so my desire for a style guide really, I think, is to help all parties streamline this process and feel like it makes sense.
Well, I know there is a document, and I know that a lot of times you can maybe share that with through John or whatever, but,
Just jump up.
Okay, so again, you're getting into the previews. Okay. So the housing subcommittee, when the first iteration did this for the comp plan chapter development, these concurrent service over a year ago. How to improve and make predictable development so people aren't caught in. But these were were a lot of the folks in that discussion. And so one of the implementation of the chapter is looking at how we might give some more stylistic suggestions, so the appearance commission isn't in the position that they are in right now, and that we can make some good suggestions. Right now, their footwork's in the focus. We do have a member of the appearance commission on the housing subcommittee. One of the suggestions, or just in the beginning of this, is to look at how we do additions. So people don't come with their own idea of addition, we maybe make some good suggestions, so not like the Santa Fe 5 type of stucco, but how do we take some of these split level ranch, mid-century modern, Georgia, the houses that we see a lot of, and do some suggestions, and part of this came out of the bungalow belt, and how you do nice bungalow additions. So you're seeing it as an opportunity to do something similar to that, so that is in. And you're making my presentation much easier for me.
I'm really to hear these answers, because it gives me a lot of ability to communicate back, and it's very helpful, so thank you.
sure.
Anything else?
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah. I think you guys are, no, one more.
Okay. I'm watching. Here it
Musical
is.
chair. So next up, we have the presentation of the Public Safety Commission budget by Vice Chair Dennis Rizzo and Staff Liaison Russ Whitefeld.
So, few of you are very familiar with the Public Safety Commission. Our goal is really to enhance safety of residents, businesses, visitors to the village. Through efforts in awareness, community outreach, that sort of thing. Historically, we've worked with the Skokie Police Department, which runs the bicycle safety event, the bicycle safety day. That has transitioned mostly to the police department. What we'd like to do in 26 is do more efforts around pedestrian, and motor vehicle and bicycle safety. Some more awareness campaigns surrounding that. So a lot more outreach for fiscal year 26 is what we're looking for. Some of the ideas that we have on the table, which you'll be hearing about, is some presence at Backlot Dash, presence at some of the other community events, so we can, really inform the community about the safety. It's very hot out. Also, we did some work in helping form the recent initiative to reduce village-wide speed limits, so we can provide some input as a commission into that process. So various things like what we're working on. But again, the focus I think this year will be, focus is this year awareness around the multimodal trucking safety surrounding.
So it's interesting that the commission has come full circle, because the commission at one time was the Traffic Safety Commission. And then it became the Public Safety Commission, maybe about 15 years ago.
Yes.
About 15 years ago. So.
And that's when police and fire joined, right?
Right, it became a combined effort, and I certainly don't know that I speak for all of us, but I know I've heard over the last year and a half, many concerns about traffic safety, vehicular motor vehicles, pedestrians, bikes on Skokie Street. So I'm very pleased to hear that this is a focus of the commission and much needed. There's going to be a presentation at the June 4th
Correct.
village board meeting by Samantha Maximilian, one of our, part of our senior engineer, about the process that precedes any additional traffic calming measures. So I'd like to invite anyone from the Public Safety Commission who's available that night to attend or watch the video later on. So we all need to work together. This is a very important community issue.
Is that the next board? No, I apologize. It's actually May 19th. I apologize.
May 19th. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you. Who has questions, comments?
Nice work. Knocked him out.
He did, knocked it out. Okay, going once, going twice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye. Let's see that. Now.
Hey, I'm trying to sit, I
Now.
was just so eager.
We have the Fine Arts Commission budget presentation by our chairperson Pamela Garbarini and assisted by our staff liaison Meredith Joya.
Thank you, Mayor Tennis. Welcome trustees and honored guests. I have a lot to go through, so I'm not going to chit chat too much right now. For those of you who are new, I just wanted to give you a one-sentence history and tell you that in 1966, the village of Skokie became the first municipality in the state of Illinois to establish a fine arts commission. So it's been around for a while. The Village of Skokie Fine Arts Commission experienced quite a year of growth in fiscal year 25. Advancing our mission to promote and support the arts in our community. This year was marked by new initiatives and growing opportunities for artists, organizations, and the public. Here are some highlights. Awards for artistic excellence. And I'm sure you've all noticed our lovely PowerPoint. This year, the Fine Arts Commission presented the awards for artistic excellence to two deserving honorees. Jay Ryan of the Bird Machine was recognized for his contributions to the art of printmaking, his commitment to the village of Skokie, and his influence on the creative landscape, both in Skokie and around the world. Music Theater Works was honored for their dedication to artistic excellence in the performing arts and their significant role in enriching Skokie's economic growth and cultural life through high-quality theater productions. Fine Arts Commission grants. The commission continued its commitment to fostering the arts by awarding grants to local organizations and schools. As far as organizations, grants were awarded to Anatomically Correct, Philippian Players, Skokie Concert Choir, Zillin North Chinese School, and St. Tim's Coffee House to support their artistic work in Skokie. A new grantee, Philippian Players, utilized their funds to record new arrangements of Bach's solo violin sonatas, culminating in a free public concert at Siemens Violins. Grants for schools were awarded to Bessie Rhodes, Hillel Torah, and Niles North High School to enrich their arts education. Niles North's Aurora's Dance Company, a first-time grantee,
hired a professional choreographer to teach Afro-Caribbean dance and created an original piece, Welcome to Carnival, which the group performed at their January recital. Tales from the Trails, a collaboration with the Skokie Bike Network. As part of the Tour de Skokie, the Fine Arts Commission co-hosted the Tales from the Trails storytelling event in July at Sketchbook Brewery in collaboration with the Skokie Bike Network. Community outreach, downtown trick or treat. The Fine Arts Commission participated in the Skokie Chamber of Commerce's downtown trick or treat event. We handed out boxes of crayons to hundreds of witches, goblins, and superheroes, encouraging creativity and artistic expression. SOAR, which stands for Student Outstanding Artist Recognition. The Fine Arts Commission again hosted the annual SOAR art exhibit at Oakton College in March, which is
Arts and Education.
That's what it is. It's Arts and Education Month. With 21 Skokie area schools participating. This year, we were thrilled to welcome Niles Township District for Special Education to the event, expanding the diversity and impact of this exhibition. Expansion of our mission, supporting individual artists. Responding to feedback from last year's artist networking event, the Fine Arts Commission expanded its mission to include more opportunities for individual artists. A highlight was the Skokie Art Spot, which was a pop-up exhibit during Arts and Humanities Month in October, held in a vacant storefront in downtown Skokie. Over 60 local artists submitted work, and 25 pieces were selected for the month-long event, attracting more than 150 visitors and further advancing Skokie's commitment to nurturing its local art scene. The Storefront, a new home for our arts and small businesses. A significant milestone was the village's purchase of 4051 Main Street to create an arts and small business incubator. The Storefront. This new venue, named in homage to Skokie's famous, to Chicago's famous storefront theater scene, will provide local artists with opportunities to showcase their work and engage with the community. The Fine Arts Commission also purchased a permanent gallery hanging system for the space, which will be installed soon to support future exhibitions. And I'd particularly like to shout out to Meredith Joya for all the hard work she's put into getting that store. I mean, everything from cleaning bathrooms to whatever. Artist networking event. In February, the Fine Arts Commission hosted its second annual artist networking event, this time at the Storefront. The event saw local artists come together to tour the space, share ideas, and foster connections, creating a strong sense of community and collaboration. Posters hung on the walls prompted attendees to share their creative ideas for the storefront by writing them on Post-it notes and then sticking them to the appropriate poster. In addition, Take Flight Spirits was on hand to provide refreshment and introduce their business to a broader audience. Looking ahead, as we reflect on a busy and fulfilling year, we're excited about the creative momentum building in Skokie's arts community, and there's so much more ahead. On June 2nd, 16th, and 30th, we're thrilled to host 15 vendors for the Main Street Makers Market, presented in partnership with the Meetup on Main Street. Also this summer, we're launching Weaving Community, a traveling hands-on art project for all ages. Using recycled fabric strips made from donated clothing, participants will be able to weave on a giant loom. The resulting tapestry will be proudly displayed at the storefront. Look for us at the storefront, the farmers market, and other events throughout the summer. We're also welcoming Star Sound Baths to the storefront, offering a unique meditation experience using therapeutic sound vibrations to guide your body and mind into deep relaxation. And that's just a glimpse of what the Fine Arts Commission has in store to engage the community, spotlight local talent, and support small businesses. With heartfelt thanks to the Village Board for their continued support, we look forward to cultivating and celebrating the arts in Skokie together. The future of Skokie's art scene is brighter than ever.
Here, here. Good work. Boy, cheers and stars. What a great, I feel like a proud mama.
You should.
Getting been the staff liaison to the Fine Arts for many years and
And Nick
courses.
too,
Wow.
we've got three.
Right, Nick even got an award.
Uh-huh.
And I'm trying not to let you give it to you. Nick had a hand in every single sculpture and mural that you see in this community. So we have Nick to thank for that. Well-deserved award. But thank you, and Meredith, you've taken it to another stratosphere. So grateful. That's my yes. Questions? Lisa.
So mostly comments, and I'm also gonna follow trustee Robinson here and say thank you for all the work that you do. And I wanna say that, you know, the SOAR program, even before I knew anything about government, one of my children came home and he had participated in the SOAR program and he got this certificate, and his level of pride when he said he was signed by the mayor. And like, he just felt like he had conquered the world, and it was just such a moving experience for him. And so, you know, I thank you for all of that work. And I also want to emphasize that I do believe that one of the things that makes us human is our desire and capacity for storytelling and the power of catharsis through creative expression. So I just want to say thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for being the arts vibrant in our community at a time, especially now when deeply we need this very intensely needed action. So
Yes.
That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much.
I'd like to just take a moment, give another quick shout out to Meredith. I wasn't in this building more than 15 minutes after the day after our swearings in. And John and I were in Meredith's office, and I was asking her if she could please somehow curate back a collection of the SOAR art from this year that I am super excited will be displayed in the mayor's office. And that's my plan every year to rotate that art. So
And I'm picking them up this week.
Meredith's
Oh,
making it happen.
wonderful.
So I'm really appreciative. So.
Yeah.
Trustee Schechter.
I'm fascinated by the storefront. And so it's owned by the village. Can you give just some detail about how that, who owns it, where the money come from, so what is the story?
Well, John.
So there was a grant from the state, $600,000 to improve Main Street. And so the village board at the time added $400,000 to that as a way to really focus in on Main Street and improve it, make it more vibrant. And so for a period of time, the village was looking for the opportunity to buy that right building or that right piece of property. And the now storefront became available. And the concept of supporting small businesses and having an incubator space for both the arts and business opportunities just kind of flourished. And so Meredith really has taken on the storefront and has really championed it and had a vision for it. And the economic vitality team also has a vision for it. But Meredith, to her credit, has really made it where it is today, and influenced the name and got, the staff to support it. But it's part of a strategy for the Main Street corridor, starting at Crawford, heading west. And there's significant investment that has happened from Zelda's on the south side of Main Street. There's about $1 million improvement that they have completed. And then they have purchased the building just north of the storefront. And so there's some additional investment going on there. And so there's some momentum that's happening on Main Street, but the storefront is a piece of that.
And it built from, there was a committee that was meeting with the consultants, MTSK, and coming up with the idea of what this revitalization of Main Street was going to be. And the idea became Make It on Main. And from that, it was arts and small businesses and making it kind of a cool place that people want to come and hang out and spend time. And it was kind of just synchronicity that that particular building, which used to house a dance studio, was available at the very same time that we had the funds available to purchase the property. And so it all just kind of fell into place. And we're so excited to launch it, to really start programming it this June. And then we're going to have an online reservation portal where artists and organizations can request to reserve the space and utilize the space for events or workshops. We're not looking to make money on this. We're looking to just cover costs. So we're very competitive. Very encouraging to the artists. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback from local artists that are interested. This Star Sound Baths, she is from Morton Grove, and she goes around to a number of different suburbs and does these sound bath meditations. And it was actually one of the suggestions that was on a post-it on the poster during the artist networking night. And so I reached out to her, met with her, and she said, absolutely. So June 25th, she's going to be there. And that's the kind of thing we're looking to encourage is to bring people onto Main Street. We've got a lot of great things happening, and we want to introduce them to that as well.
It's a big part of that.
I was going to say, we need to give a shout out to Meet Up on Main Street.
Right.
And your leadership.
Justin Levy.
Yes,
Yes.
because you demonstrated that there's an interest in Main Street and people want to attend events. And the winter market, we thought it was risky, but not real risky, partly because there had been a demonstrated interest in people attending events there. And so the first winter market had hundreds of attendees, but it was no surprise because you'd already proven it with the Meet Up on Main.
Thank you. One other note from your presentation, I was really pleased that the commission provided a grant that ultimately ended up in a performance at one of Skokie's gems, Seaman Violins. And what I love about that is the interconnection between the work, again, not only on Main Street, but the work of the commission that connects to economic vitality. So, great job, Scott.
I just say about Seaman Violins is that if you don't know, there's a performance space.
Yeah.
That, and it is fantastic to see music.
Yes, and reasonably priced.
Yes.
Reasonably priced, and yes. Trustee Iverson.
I heard you say online portal for the storefront. Is that up and running?
It is just about up and running. We're doing final quality testing on it to make sure it all works. And then, so hopefully by the end of the month.
Excellent. There's just a huge number of amateur artists looking for, anxious to, they'll do all the work, they'll keep the art up.
Yep.
They'll take it all down the next thing.
Other questions, comments? Thank you.
Great. All right. And we do have gifts for all of you. Doing that there you go. Not only do you get PowerPoint, but you get gifts.
Oh, you want So folks, we're going to hear from our beautification commission, and then we're going to take about a 5 to 7 minute break. So I think we will now hear about from the beautification and improvement commission budget by Chairperson Bob Quain and staff liaison, our one and only Forester Kathy Stevens.
Hey, everybody. So we have some familiar faces and some new faces. But I've seen all of you out and about prior to this meeting. So it's great to be back again to share with you what the commission tries to do and what we've been up to. Kind of give you an overview of some of the activities. In general, the commission is all about environmental sustainability. It's all about native plants. It's about trees. It's about turf reduction and raising awareness, providing a solid resource for residents in Skokie to turn to if they want to become more and more enthusiastic about some of those elements. And so you've seen that handout. Thank you. Starting with the parade. We used to just, before I joined the commission at 23, we basically were the only traditional float in the parade. And a few people hopped on the float and went down the parade route. And I said, there's got to just be a little bit more to that. So we've added a lot of signage to our float in terms of rooting for trees, and native plants are patriotic too. And we started the kaleidoscope of butterflies to draw attention to butterfly conservation and safety of our pollinators. And so that's what the parade has become for us, is generating that awareness. And I'm currently in the process of expanding beyond the commission for more butterflies. And so the word has gone out to recruit more butterflies, and they'll wear their butterfly wings. So looking forward to that. We're the official commission that officially recognizes Arbor Day. We just had our Arbor Day recently. Started out a little more grandiose. We fine-tuned it a little bit, and it's primarily a book read by our mayor, who did a fantastic job at Jane Stenson, reading to a bunch of kindergarten students. And then again, sharing her comments about the benefits of trees to some of the student council members at Jane Stenson. And the kids get a chance to participate in that tree planting, which our forester, with the help of public Skokie Park District, makes that happen for us. And even some of our elected officials. You put a shovel in the ground, you're out there recently.
Justin joined us as well.
Yeah, that's right. So that was kind of cool. Then we donate books on trees to the library that the teachers can utilize. A year before that, Vera Van Duzen actually did a recording of a book read, and we put on a flash drive, and so we were passing around at the school, depending on their schedules. That worked out really well too. We're in the beginning of experimenting with a kind of a tree tracker program to complement the grant that we received. By the way, you can chime in anytime, Kathy. The grants that we received, the village received to plant hundreds of trees each and every year for the next 4 or 5 years. And so it's just like, well, the village do a pretty good job of planting on some designated private areas in the village, places of worship, school buildings, community colleges. We wanted to get some of our residents involved too, even though their lots are generally on a small site. So we offered, kind of a gift card incentive
for residents to participate and then upload a picture of them planting their tree. And so we tried that for the first time, and we'll probably go back at it and gain more interest in that in the following year. So that's part of our tree tracker program. The signature event of the commission, and some of you are probably already aware of this, is that we have the Property or Beautification Awards program. And there are 15 zones that we designated in Skokie, and our commissioners put on their commissioner vest and they fan out to these various zones, and the eyeball what to them is a standout property, especially when it comes to landscaping and native plants. So this program has been modernized to align with the sustainability plan with the village. So there's a big emphasis on those native plants, and Valerie Schumann is behind us here, and she was running the subcommittee and played a large role in modernizing that particular program. So we had something like 60 entries this past year, and we selected 24 winners. And then we also created the Skokie Best, like the top five properties, and we come to some of you see us in probably end of October, November, presenting those awards to those residents. So the speaker series was something new to the commission as well. And we're fortunate to have a staff person, Rachel Rosenberg, on our commission, and she is employed at the Botanic Gardens. And so she mixes and mingles with a lot of experts as it relates to landscaping and native planting and that sort of thing. So, and the library has been a great partner in this speaker series because they've actually helped contribute toward the honorariums for the speakers, which is pretty cool. And but the kick is, if you want them involved, you got to let them know who your speaker is 6 months in advance. So we're trying to stay on top of that. But at least the feedback from the library is we've had absolute record attendance at this speaker event. And the last speaking event was Rethinking Lawns, incorporating native plants into home landscapes. Before that, Gardening with Native Plants, Why and How. Before that, Birds in the Garden, creating a bird oasis. And before that, Edible Gardens. How to incorporate those into your landscape. So, and the residents really seem to appreciate getting the knowledge and getting their questions answered on these topics. We've also, the commission in the past has done some planting activities, but this past year, we have on our commission a lot of quasi-master gardeners. They're really extremely knowledgeable. And so they've taken a lead on our planting projects, and actually the design, and then in collaboration with Public Works and Kathy, the selection of those native plants that make sense. The idea is to reduce the lawn or grass that the village mows and turn that into native plantings. And our most recent project, you probably drive by it every day. It's that little median strip that we're Niles Center splits into downtown, and Main Street continues on out in front of the Niles Township Government Office. And that was our latest project. So we're anxious to see what that's going to look like next month. And we'll continue to scope out properties in that respect. On the drawing board, we're looking forward to maybe adding to our programming with possible garden walk, excuse me, but the details of that are still being worked out. Perhaps starting with some of our very own properties that have won past awards. To keep these activities going, we do a mailing list of people interested in our commission, people that have participated in the awards, and a lot of this happens because of the communications arm of this village, and Meredith and Patrick, to make the residents aware of what we're up to, and please come out and take advantage of that.
So. That's kind of it related to the beautification commission. Kathy, anything you'd like to comment on?
No, I did, just, I personally want to say thanks to you for all the hard work that you've done to putting this little flyer together and everything. I mean, you've just done a lot of work, so thank you.
The commission got really busy a few years back, but they're just ready. And they just needed someone to just like let go. The energy was there and they got pointed in the right direction and got permission to do almost anything they wanted to do. And I really started developing things and I just kind of watch it happen. So it's really neat.
Well, great job. Thank you for your leadership. Both you and Bob, you've done just a wonderful job. Special shout out. I have been so excited to walk, because I walk a lot in our beautiful community, and to walk through and see the little signs in the yards of the beautification winners. And I love that we're looking at beauty differently and integrating sustainability with that. And I really commend the commission for, as you said, you're modernizing the beautification awards criteria for properties that are landscaped beautifully with native plants and less lawn and all the things that are important for sustainability. So great job with that.
By the way, this is a little piece that when the commissioners go out to scout, it's a new piece that we use. It's a door hanger that explains the purpose of why we're looking at their property. We want them to encourage them to be in the awards program, and then of course you have the pocket here with our and actually narrative played a big role in actually creating this piece for the awards program. And so that's very helpful, keeping it going equally strongly.
Questions, comments, Trustee Schechter?
Yeah, one of the things that I found most fascinating in the sustainability plan is trying to create a corridor or a seamless corridor in Skokie from butterflies, like a, pollinator.
Yeah, and
Where is that?
that's it's another one of those things on that's being currently discussed, actually. So your comment is timely, is creating this so-called pollinator pathway. And Katie Dar and Valerie and some other folks are exploring, where's our next planting going to be, and is it strategic, that sort of thing. Even looking at are there, we're a tree city in Skokie, so there's this certification, the things we have to do in order to be designated a tree city. And so, Valerie was sharing with me tonight, maybe is there some kind of designation out there for a pollinator village? And so we're currently doing that work.
And to supplement the work with the beautification commission, the public improvement CIP also funds large swaths of native plantings. So we did last year, it was Niles or
Terminal Avenue from Niles Center to Dempster or Carroll. That whole area was all turf and now it's not.
And this year, I think we're doing the detention pond on Golf and Carlo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the commission is not going to turn the village to native plants. It's the folks that are showing up every day, Public Works and being steered by the village effort to get as many native planters in the ground as possible, and trees.
Yeah.
Trustee Lizzie.
Do you find in conjunction with Public Works that native plants have a measurable impact on flooding mitigation?
That is one of the benefits of having native plants that are more deeply rooted than turf. And so that in and of itself will be flood mitigation. And then there's obviously rain gardens and things like that as well. These are the kinds of educational things that we incorporate into our speaker series. Then again, our website is actual resource for residents to turn to in terms of why plant native.
Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, I promised to break, but before we do, I want to do one thing. I want to see if there's anyone here who is interested in making a public comment. I don't want to make folks wait longer if that's something they want to do. So I'll open the floor. Comments would be 3 minutes each. Is there anyone who wanted to address the board? Okay, being none, 7-minute break. Iverson is getting himself mixed up with a cup of something. All right, here we go. Health and Human Services.
Yes, so.
With our Director Mike Charlie, Sharon Lindo, Public Health Program Analyst, Coordinator and Analyst, page 59 and page 195 respectively.
So, good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Mike Charlie, and I'm the Director of Health and Human Services, and I have Sharon Lindo with me tonight. She's the Public Health Program Coordinator Analyst, like Anna said. This evening, I'm going to provide an overview of some of the important and impactful work that Health and Human Services has done over the last year, and also highlight some of the noticeable accomplishments and present some of our budget priorities for the upcoming fiscal year. So our budget is 2.3 million. There's really been no significant changes to our budget over the last year, money-wise. It's pretty similar to what it was in previous fiscal year. I do want to note that 39% of our total expenditures, we also bring in that amount of revenue through grant funding and through fees, which helps with some strong financial and fiscal stewardship. I am proud also to say that we're one of 4 municipal state certified health departments in the state. And it's important to us that we continue to retain that state certification. If you look at the budget, there's like really 5 different divisions or areas within the budget. You have health admin, you have environmental health, community health, you have human services and our grant funded programs. And I'd like to spend a little bit of time tonight talking a little bit about some of our accomplishments over the last year. So let me start with one of the cornerstones of our department is grant funding. So we anticipate $633,000 in grant funding through 16 different grants. Again, through grant funds and fees, that's about 39% of our total budget. And this grant funding is really important to the health department because it allows us to provide certain services and programs that maybe other municipalities wouldn't be able to provide. And there's a lot to list. And for the sake of time, I'm going to skip some of it, but emergency preparedness and planning, food safety, childhood-led communicable disease surveillance, et cetera. So in addition to this, like I said, we have 16 different grants, and each grant has a different deliverable and a different function, and it all provides different services to the village. I did want to talk a little bit about our rat control program. And I consider our current rat control program a model of integrated public health response. So it's managed through our environmental health division. And the amazing thing is over the last calendar year, we've actually reduced the number of active rat cases in the village by 56%. And part of the reason is because some of the additional funding that the board approved last year in order for us to expand some of the services we provide, which I want to thank not only this board, but the previous board for that, expanding the budget for that. Within our rat control program, it's really a collaborative approach between the village staff, internal village stakeholders, our businesses, and our residents play a very important role with that. Currently, we staff 2 full-time environmental control officers, which are funded through the budget. We also fund a full-time, or not full-time, a contractor that provides weekly service throughout the entire year, and that's a very important part of us reducing the number of rat cases because we're very consistent with how often we get out to these properties. We've used different baiting techniques and innovative approaches over the last year. We've used contraceptives. We've used a CO2 device. We've also used different bait formulations, which have been really effective. We've tried to expand what we've been doing with that. We do a lot of public engagement and education. We also use the data to identify the high density areas within the village where we're able to focus our resources and attention to those areas which have the largest rat density and population. We also have a really good interdepartmental team that includes Public Works, Health Department, Property Standards, and the Village Manager's Office, where we meet to monitor progress and adapt some of our strategies. And then I'm really excited to say that later in May, I've initiated conversation with some of the surrounding municipalities, and we're actually gonna be having a regional control meeting here at Village Hall with Morton Grove, Niles, Wilmette, Lincolnwood, and Evanston. And when I reached out to them, they were all like, yes, absolutely. So I think they're still experiencing a lot of the same things where you've been experiencing in the past with rats. So I'm really proud of our rat program. I feel like we've made a big impact over the last year. So we have a human services division that provides a ton of social service support to the community. You know, Skokie, believe it or not, even though it's maybe a upper middle class community, you still have those that are vulnerable. So we have serviced over 1,800 individuals this last fiscal year through that program, providing housing and utility assistance, food access, mental health referrals and support, employment referrals, case management, crisis intervention, and much, much more. Each case requires a different level of service. And I'm extremely proud of our human services team, which includes licensed clinical social workers and admin staff. And then I know that the co-responder team, the police department had already talked about this, but it's really an asset to the village. We have a licensed social worker in the health department pairing with a crisis intervention trained police officer in the field. And that continues to be a real successful program. But we do a lot of talking with other municipalities. They come to us and they ask us about our approach and how we implement it and how effective it is and how well we're doing. And if you look, the police department, you look at their annual reports, there's a pretty good page on some of the data that they've collected. So if you go onto the village website, you'll see that at least a single page in their annual report has some really good information about the co-responder team. So every year we offer seasonal flu vaccine to the public, and that's done through our community health division. We have 2 large scale community clinics held annually to reach a broader segment of the population. And we have ongoing clinics throughout the year at Village Hall that's open to the public. We also coordinate with the schools and advocate to provide vaccinations at the schools for the school children. We also provide homebound vaccine for anyone who's unable to leave their house. So I think last year we had vaccinated over 1,300 individuals in Skokie, and a significant percent, 582 of those were high dose senior flu vaccine, which it's really popular with our senior population. And I think they're really appreciative of this. Now, we did talk a little bit about the Medical Reserve Corps. That's been coordinated and managed out of Health and Human Services Department. We have about 103 trained volunteers who meet quarterly, and they staff different things throughout the year: flu clinics, emergency bottled water distribution at the water event, the Young Heart for Life screenings at Niles West, Stop the Bleed trainings. And one thing we've done over the last year, which I think, Ann, you mentioned this earlier, is we've made it a priority to recruit mental and behavioral health professionals. After what happened over in Hyde Park, we knew that we had to be prepared. If anything happened here, we had to have those professionals on call so that, you know, and that's a very important part of what we can do with the Medical Reserve Corps. So we've increased our licensed professionals by probably 6 or 7 or 8 people just over the last year. So I'm very proud of what staff has done with that. So I know I'm cruising through this tonight because I want to be respectful of your time too. I know we're a little bit behind, but I did want to mention that those are just some of the few programs. We have over 50 programs and services that we provide to the village, and that's just a small handful of them. If I had unlimited time this evening, I'd love nothing more than to share details on accomplishments of those 50+ services, but I have a feeling that it might keep us here till midnight, and I'd like to stay on everyone's good side, at least, you know, and make a good first impression of some of the new trustees at least. So, and I know also that I've met individually with some of the new trustees, and Ann, I met with you again. And you guys, I gave you a packet of our services, which you guys have readily available too. And you're more than welcome to reach out to John or Nick and let me know if you have any questions about our other services. So I want to thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you, Mike. Great job. You and your staff do great work. And how fortunate are we that our community has invested in the health department for decade after decade after decade. Really set Skokie apart. Who has questions? Trustee Shetty.
One of the things that I love about the work of your department is that the way that you're able to pull from other departments in the village as well, and now hearing that we're a regional hub of, solutions, whether it's looking at the forward responder or around rats. And I was wondering, in terms of that I plan, that among the 3 priorities is affordable housing. And how's the village really, maybe that's a broader question, but integrating with the other departments so that, this is additive and not like duplicative.
So, to the leadership of John Lockerbie, and he's done a really good job with ensuring that, like Johanna in community development and myself, and the planning commission and the housing subcommittee of the planning commission and our affordable housing action team on the I-plan process are all intertwined and having conversations. I do know that the village was able to pass the inclusionary housing ordinance, which was a good first step. And I know that they're doing other things within with the money they're gonna be getting. People don't want to actually provide units and things like that. But yeah, I think that we have some really good internal communication. I think we're all on a first name basis, and I think we understand that we can't do this in our own silos.
Other questions, comments?
I'm sorry, I also had another question about, I was fascinated to read, where in here? I think it was here, about your youth, the workforce development work that you're doing.
Is it?
Reviewed,
Yeah, sure. Is it the youth outreach program or is it the workforce development? program?
the Oakton, here it is, the
Yeah.
Oakton.
So, well, we can give credit to Anne or credit to, it was her baby.
That was my baby.
Yeah.
We started it in fall of actually, it kicked off in early 2021. The idea, it was the Skokie Community Foundation. It was a partnership between Skokie Community Foundation, Oakton College, and Health and Human Services to provide Skokie residents who were unemployed or underemployed in the wake of the pandemic with the opportunity to attend short-term certificate training, vocational certificate training programs at Oakton, free of charge. And the Health and Human Services component was to help provide wraparound services so these residents could persist in their studies. And what was wonderful was that the Skokie Community Foundation stepped up with, I think it was $8,000 in seed money to start. And that was quickly matched by the Education Foundation serving the students of Niles Township. The village put in ARPA, COVID relief funds, and the Skokie Community Foundation and the Education Foundation provided additional funding in out years. So it delights me to know that that program continues. Oakton was a great partner because what there has been, I'm sure it's continued. Because one of the things that we agreed was going to be important to the integrity of the program was to have dedicated staff. So that when a student needed academic advising, there was one person they went to at Oakton, one person in the bursar's office, one person, and that those connections were established. So it's a great program. Mike, I'm delighted that you and your staff have continued it. So thank you.
Thanks, you did a great job.
Yeah.
Better than I could.
Other questions, comments? Okay.
Great, I think I just put us ahead of schedule.
You have lots of time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Don't forget, it's like a fabulous looking Barbie. Okay, we now are joined by community development with Johanna Knight, Community Development Director, and Rodney, forgive me, I'm forgetting your last name, Tonelli, and you are the Economic Vitality Manager. Take it away, please.
Good evening again. I will also try to be brief and maybe faster than Mike. So I will talk about two of the three divisions, planning and building and inspection services. And then Rod will talk about economic vitality. We went over a little bit of what the development activity has been with the Plan Commission, ZBA and Appearance Commission, so I'll skip over that. Talk a little bit about the housing subcommittee of the Plan Commission. I think that there's some interest there. This is a group that was originally created to prepare the chapter for the comprehensive plan, and then it was reformed with many of the same members to start the implementation of the housing chapter. So they've met twice since being appointed in December, and working through implementing that chapter. And the areas of focus for that group have been housing needs study to understand what the housing, what housing we have here, what do we need, better understand the market, and particularly with emphasis on preserving what we have in terms of naturally occurring affordable housing here in Skokie. One of the other pieces is looking at zoning and code enhancements to streamline and improve the process by which new units are created and new or improved. So that was a big undercurrent, which I mentioned earlier, of that chapter development. The housing playbook, as we're calling it, with how do we rehab? I mentioned that before. That's a piece of that. And then implementing zoning changes like height, some of the things that might go before a ZPA that seem really obvious of, well, wait, why did we have to get relief from that? How do we streamline some of those things? An example, I was hoping Brian would share it, but it was many of the homes in Skokie are built in side yards, and we have a 6-foot side yard setback. Well, if your home's built in that side yard and you want to put an addition above it, you have to get relief for it, even though your home is already in the side yard. So building in things like that, so people don't have to necessarily go through pretty obvious relief items. So looking at working with the subcommittee on that. We're working to finalize our housing land trust. I know many of you came to our listen and learn session that we had earlier this spring. So looking to do a working meeting to develop the draft ordinance that we'll bring to the village board later this summer. We talked a little bit about the comprehensive plan in our chapter by chapter approach. So we've been working on preparing to do transportation and mobility next. We have a CMAP technical assistance grant to do some pedestrian mobility planning there, and then we would move that forward later, probably next fiscal year, when we could bring on and additional consultants to build some of the more technical aspects of that chapter. But the earlier chapters, community engagement and demographics, those chapters we're looking to do this year as well, to update the demographics to reflect what we have today post 2020 census. The next section I'll talk about is permits and inspections. It's nice to talk to many of you during orientation, and I shared that the management team has worked really hard with the staff to talk about these aren't just permits or inspections, these are dreams. These are people's homes, it's their safe space, it's not just a kitchen rehab, it's where they're gonna prepare their meal for their family. It's not just an addition, it's where their family might grow into. Thinking about things less so as a function of a code, but as part of people's excitement in realizing what they want to see in their home. So each year we do a little audit of how are things going, what are some things we can improve. So this past year, we looked at things like we previously required bonds. So if somebody comes and gets a building permit, we required a bond. Well, the village is never going to undertake finishing the work if the work doesn't get done. That's a matter between a private property owner and a contractor. But we're still requiring a bond to be put in place. So we removed that requirement, thereby reducing the cost for the permitting activity and making the process a little easier. So that's just an example of one thing we did. Our property maintenance staff continues to work to implement our neighborhood integrity ordinance. We did a number of inspections over the past year to do what's called round inspections. Those are inspections where we go and look at the exterior and the common areas of properties. We went and did for pre-sale inspections. We did 66 of those. Those are when multifamily homes sell. Property maintenance inspectors go in and look at the condition of the building and make sure that those buildings are safe before they transfer. As we look ahead to this coming year in terms of improvement to the experience of obtaining a permit and getting your property inspected, we're working with our IT team to move things to the cloud. So that will streamline a lot of our processes, help us give live updates to our permitting. We can result in the field, which means that we can move people forward in getting their building permits approved more quickly. We're also looking forward to doing the expansion of our 1 day a week pilot program for people being able to obtain permits in person if they want. We do continue to have a strong presence of online permitting activity. We do about 3/4 of our permits online, so that's a 24/7 operation. You can apply for a building permit in the middle of the night if you so choose, and it will pop up on the screen when staff comes in, and we can review the documents and approve or move that project forward. One thing that I'm really excited about we're gonna do is, if you're familiar with the tool Calendarly, we have a tool within Microsoft Suite that we can access, so people, it's always tough one of the challenges we have is I can't get a hold of somebody, I wanna talk to them at this time. We're gonna pilot a tool so people can schedule time to call for an inspector to call them back. So if they're free at 2:45, they can pick 2:45 and an inspector will call them back at 2:45 instead of trying to play the phone tag game. So we're gonna pilot that with a few staff over the next couple months and then roll it out if it's successful. Continue to do ongoing training. Sustainability is a big piece of the training element. We know that this is a priority for the village. We want to make sure that the inspectors and the planners are up to date and aware of the best practices so we can make sure that those are implemented in the village. And finally, we do engage in continuous improvement with this part of our department, and we're going to work with a third party to get fresh eyes on the whole process. What are the things that we could be doing? What are some best in class ideas that we could bring into Skokie? This is also an element of a requirement for if we ever wanted to be an accredited permit operation and municipal permit operation. This is a requirement that we would have to get reviewed by a third party.
So we're bringing in an outside expert to look at the permitting process from top to bottom in terms of efficiency, customer service, what we can do to decrease the disconnect between the wonderful things that we're hearing from our director and maybe what we hear out in the community about the actual experience. So look forward to more on that. The phone scheduling, that sounds like certainly a step in the right direction. So let's hope that the study reveals more customer service, customer friendly and process friendly steps that can be incorporated. So thank you. Questions? Yes, trustee Levy.
So you mentioned the issues about transportation, so I'm wondering if I can be filled in on a couple of things. The first thing is bus shelters, and the second thing is why the yellow line is only 2 stops and doesn't end at the orchard.
Oh my.
I know, the second one is a big, I get that. So that's why I started this year.
So bus shelters.
So bus shelters, like right now, if you wanna take the bus. Most of the bus stops in Skokie are unsheltered. And particularly, there's one on Oakton and Costner where the glass has been broken out in that for about 4 years now. So one, are we studying, where would be the best places to put additional bus shelters? And 2, whose responsibility is it to take care of those shelters?
So we're fortunate to have both PACE and CTA providing bus service in town, and so those bus shelters are there. They own them.
Yeah.
But we have a person in Public Works over the last year that has really taken on our bus shelters and is working to get them in better condition. And there's a little bit of the bus agencies expect the municipality to take on that responsibility. So we're refining that process, and so we can get back to you with more kind of robust explanation once we have a good handle on how to proceed.
Excellent.
And then for the yellow line, so for the longest time, it was just the Dempster Streets. Well, decades ago, there was a stop at Costner and the tracks. And so it used to be that people were coming to Skokie to buy their first house. And so there were several model homes that you could get off the train at Costner, do the models, pick your home, and then eventually move to Skokie. But that train station, of course, is no longer in existence. So For the longest time, for decades, the only train station was at Dempster Street, and it was a commuter station. And so people drove there and then they took the station or took the train to their destination into the city. As part of bringing the Illinois Science and Technology Park to Skokie, it was a requirement basically to have a downtown station. And so the village worked with the federal government and Congresswoman Schakowsky in order to obtain funding, partial funding, and built the Yellow Line station in the downtown, and then basically turned the keys over to the CTA and they provide service there. At one point in the past 25 years, we only had service on the weekdays, and then there was a pilot on weekend service, and now we have 7-day-a-week service. In the past 20 years, when the Olympics were potentially coming to Chicago, there was interest in actually extending the Yellow Line. And so there had been long-term plans from the CTA to have a terminating stop of the Yellow Line north of Gulf Road, either on the east or the west side of the expressway. There were 3 different locations. There was a public hearing process, and in that, conducted by the CTA, and in that process, the community was very loud about not wanting a station anywhere near that area of town. And so those plans died, partly because the funding dried up because the Olympics never came, but there was other demands on the CTA service. And when this extension was surfaced and there was opposition, there was no interest in pursuing.
Okay. It was strong opposition, strong vocal movement, widespread opposition.
Okay. Given the new development at Old Orchard and they want to have a transportation hub there, do we have renewed possibility of shared cost? I suspect that in the 15 years since the Olympics, since the Chicago Olympic bid, you know, population has shifted and maybe there's more desire for public transportation options. These are things I just would like to know, and thank you for the history.
I think you're raising a great point, and I think it's time to revisit it.
I agree. Maybe not right away, but with what's planned for Old Orchard. Yeah, great.
Okay, one last thing, I know I said 2, one last thing, promise. A lot of vacant lots in particularly District 3. What we do to study those land uses and figure out what we can develop there.
Yeah, so we know a lot about a lot of those, particularly in some of the residential areas. We had some staff and an intern volunteer go out and query some of those. So some of this data is already getting pulled. So we know about it, and that's part of will feed into the housing needs study.
Cool. I think we.
Other questions? Trustee Robinson.
Comment and question. I was gonna ask about clearing the red tape for residents in each of businesses. Sounds like there's going to be a study that will something that will learn a lot. The second item I had was just any updates on the
ADUs. Yeah, so that is one of the things that the housing subcommittee is working on. And we're in the nascent stages of some draft language to bring back to the committee from a staff perspective. And we're meeting, I think, June or July, I forget how the dates worked out, but we're meeting, and the plan is to make a recommendation to the planning commission. And we'll continue to move that along. We know there's a deep interest in this, so we'll try to move it along.
And ADUs are defined as accessory dwelling units. Trustee Schechter.
Thank you. Thanks for all this great work. And actually just a comment, I feel that the budget of your department at $1.7 million is woefully low. It's woefully low for all of that you do. So I think that in terms of the priorities in this community, we need to figure out how to keep that up.
And this is where, again, this is where our strategic plan initiative is going to give us that direction. So, yes.
But so a couple of questions. One is, now with that ordinance, we have language with regard to creating, with the fee in lieu of quote unquote affordable housing fund, which states, quote, any single affordable housing, so this affordable housing renovation grant will be limited to more than 60,000 per property. Not more than $300,000 shall be allocated and awarded from the aggregate fee in lieu or affordable housing fund for renovations in any calendar year. So I read that to mean that there's a cap of $300,000 in any year that can be used for this grant program. So it's a couple of questions. One is, I don't see anywhere either on the expense side or the income side anything about this grant program. Are there going to be rules about that? And also, if we're going to get more than 300,000 a year, what are the rules for that? Can it sort of tie back? I guess the Health and Human Services people left, but even things like rental assistance or other assistance, but in general, like having a major community discussion about uses of this affordable housing.
So a couple things. One, the land trust language, as you know, some of that will include how that money gets spent when we flesh out that ordinance language. The housing rehab grant, that was a piece that came when we were developing the inclusionary housing ordinance. And since that time, we worked with the Furman Center out of the NYU. They are leaders in housing policy and development. And specifically, we worked on talking about housing rehab grants for multifamily and that naturally occurring affordable housing. How do we keep people in there while not gentrifying and making this unaffordable for households? So I think we have some best practices out of that once we kind of get the chance to refine some of this, we can work through it and really build out the program structure for the rehab. But the idea is not to put all the, I think that the intent here was not to spend all the money in one spot, but to make sure that it's going to multiple properties.
It seems to me like whatever is decided should happen like this year, because monies are going to start to flow into that. So.
And I know there's money allocated through processes that have said, developments that have said that they're going to do the fee in lieu. I don't know that we will receive that money this fiscal year.
And then I just had some other questions related to some of the property standards. And there are a lot of, unfortunately, substandard rental buildings or flats, or some of it are simply landlords who just don't have the wherewithal. And so figuring out ways, I mean, this is part of it, but ways for them to be able to do what they need to do, but still rent to lower income people. The other part, unfortunately, is that they are, landlords who are neglecting their properties and their renters. And so just wondering, what are we, do we have regular inspections? What have been some of the outcomes of inspections in the last year? Are we finding landlords who are neglectful? Is this an area where we need to be more resources?
But this is a challenge similar to what Mike Charlie talked about, challenges of every community is facing. Housing, if we have a housing shortage, making sure we have high quality housing is a challenge for any community. We do work, we follow up very diligently with complaints. It's important. Our inspectors see firsthand how important it is, and they go into some pretty challenging properties. We work with our landlords. We want compliance first. We're trying not to necessarily come in and we know that those small landlords especially struggle to provide some of the things that make a good housing. So we educate. Our landlord training we've had some really nice success stories of people who explored being a landlord. They've come to the training before they decide to become a landlord and have ultimately worked with us to try to be the best landlord they can be. The outcomes are we take them to adjudication and we move the item forward to make sure that they're.
I would also say if in the cases of some landlords where we do get higher fines, several $1,000s, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. if in fact they rectify or remedy what they need to do, I have no problem reducing those fines. I'd rather see the money go back into the property. And that happens quite a bit.
We'll likely hear more about this when we hear about the neighborhood integrity ordinance. So,
It'd be, yeah, it would be good to have just some data of how, I mean, citations, I mean, inspections. How effective.
I don't know if we've broken that down specifically.
I think when we talk about the neighborhood integrity ordinance, we can look and see how many of the. You know, it's sort of like there's we get a complaint, we follow up, sometimes there's compliance, sometimes it moves to notice of violation, then there's compliance, then we get to enforcement, then it's adjudication. I think there's a number of there's just some that we just have to keep going with because but most of them do often resolve themselves anecdotally. But we could look and see if we can pull that data
I
together.
mean, there was one situation where I was helping a resident just, you know, very informally where they were living, unfortunately, you know, somebody was just mobility impaired. And the elevator was not working in the building literally months. I mean, like where they had to call the fire department just so that, I think you probably know who I'm talking about.
I know that, and that was eventually rectified, but you're right.
There are ways we can.
There was also a time lag on the parts for the elevator as well. So that took some time as well, and I know Angel had been working with the land, with the property owner as well as the resident. So there's always a lot of factors that go into that. That doesn't make it right, or that doesn't dismiss what the people of the building are going through. But it's not always a black and white situation.
other questions, comments? Trustee Iverson.
Just quickly, the neighborhood integrity ordinance, is that gonna be on our agenda?
That is, we're going to be hearing about that. That's June 4th.
That's right.
That's our June 4th. May 19th is the traffic calming from our senior engineer, Samantha Maximilian. June 4th is when we're going to hear about the neighborhood integrity ordinance. And that'll be right about the ordinance's 10th anniversary, as I recall. So we should have some good data.
And I had actually another question.
Sure, go ahead, please.
In the sustainability plan, there was a really interesting objective, whatever it's called, that I thought, wow, when are you going to implement this? It was develop a competitive request for proposals for effective and innovative net zero pilot projects. So RFP should encourage high quality mixed use redevelopment on infill properties, focusing on equity, affordability, livability, and support sustainability goals, and having a goal of a minimum of one successfully completed pilot project of at least 25 homes. Like,
So I believe that's in one of the later phases of the implementation.
Yeah, that's within the buildings and energy sector. That's within the.
Yeah, BE.
Yes, yes. That's within-
Okay.
We begun early research, but it's in the later phase of the plan.
Okay. That'll be exciting.
Yes, it will. Okay, going once, going twice. Thank you. We still have economic vitality and tips.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sure.
I'll again try to be brief and just give you some highlights. So the Economic Vitality Division is the other leg of the Community Development Department. We're a team of two. And simplify what we do. It's our job to support, promote our local business economy. So we're actively recruiting new businesses to Skokie, and as well as working with our existing business to retain them. We have over 2,000 existing businesses in the village. When we bring a new business into the community, and they pick a site and they're ready to move in, they apply for a certificate of occupancy. It's basically their license to occupy that site. Last year, we issued 134 new certificates of occupancy for businesses. So it's 134 new businesses in that last fiscal year that opened in the village. Some highlights of some of those you've probably read or saw about. I'm not gonna list all 134.
at this point in the night. I would have earlier.
Thank you.
Yeah, UL Materials Discovery Research Institute. This is a really cool project. We're proud to see go into the Science and Technology Park. The Stein Center for Advanced Dentistry, if you haven't been in that facility, it's mind-boggling, how amazing it looks. Pickledilly, I think it's one of the projects we worked probably the hardest on to get across the finish line in a very challenging building last year. And then obviously we got some big names that landed in Old Orchard last year, Pottery Barn, Our House, Zara, Capital, Rivian, I won't go on. Some of the downtown highlights, we just have the spot open, the Don Julio Cafe, Botanic Culture, and Sweet Reserve, and many, many more. Actually, opened 15 new businesses in downtown just in the past year as well. On some of the other activities to highlight, our division works on a lot of the events that drives foot traffic into our commercial corridors. So we worked as well with the manager's office on launching the winter market on Main after we had acquired the 4051 Main Street building and dubbed it the storefront. Some of the other downtown events, hopefully some of you were able to take advantage of our first progressive dinner, tasty treats on snowy streets that got rave reviews. So that was one of our division's projects. And there's a half a dozen or so more that we run throughout the year. The 8030 building, it's a 137,000 square foot building in the Science and Technology Park, 8030 Vermont, was recently transferred ownership this year. So we coordinated with the new owners and we held a Biz Now, which is a networking event, specifically on the topic of life sciences and biotech. We have 300 people in that life sciences space come to Skokie, go through that program. We had 4 panels of experts that morning that spoke. I had the pleasure to moderate one of them. But it was an opportunity for us to expose that building to 300 people that are somehow, some way, shape, or form in that bio and life science space. So I was proud of that. We were very proud of the launch of our Green Business Program initiative in past fiscal year. We had 17 businesses that initially signed up. We're doing that with consulting help from the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center, which is a program out of the University of Illinois. And they're helping the businesses through that program. We since had 3 more just recently sign up. Intuit, the tax software company, launched their own Green Business Grant. And to get it, you have to be enrolled in the Green Business Program. So 3 Intuit grant recipients in Skokie are now part of our program as well. So we had a great kickoff to that in the past year. We had 18 incentive projects that our team worked on. Some of these are storefront enhancement programs where we provide some financial incentive assistance to help people with their commercial building improvements. Some are TIF grants. If the properties are located within the TIF, we offer a TIF rehabilitation grant program. And we also deal with Cook County tax exemption programs, 6A, 6B, 7A, and 7B. We have one 7A, which is the building on Main Street that Soulwood is going into, and Zelda Stable. As that building's being redeveloped, they qualified, and the village board last year supported a 7A exemption for them. We also manage the TIF districts on the day-to-day basis in conjunction with the finance department. Each of the TIFs has an annual review by a group called the Joint Review Board, which is a member of each of the taxing districts that sits on that board. We coordinate that. We have 3 TIF districts. Just really briefly, we have the Downtown Science and Technology TIF, which is our oldest TIF. It was created in 2005. Had a couple of amendments along the way. TIFs last for 23 years. So its last year of taxes in that TIF would be 2028. We have the West Dempster TIF, which is an area around the Dempster Station. That TIF was created in 2010. And then we have the Oakland Niles TIF, which is part of downtown adjacent to the Science and Technology Park. And that was created in 2019. And again, happy if you have questions and more details on the TIFs, pass them on through John and Nick, and we can get you those answers. Our division also is liaison to 2 of our commissions, the Consumer Affairs Commission and the Economic Development Commission. So we staff those meetings, coordinate those meetings for those commissions. We I want to just highlight maybe just two other things from last year. On the developer recruitment side, another part that we actively engage in are identifying developers for properties. We have a couple of our village-owned properties that we've had some success on. We entered into a development agreement for 8201 Skokie Boulevard. That's the northeast corner of Skokie and Cleveland. That developer is in his preliminary plan review process right now, so we hope to see him at Plan Commission and Board probably later this summer or early fall. Across the street on the southeast corner, 8143 Skokie, we had issued an RFQ and we successfully identified a potential developer for that site. And they're in the conceptual planning process right now. We expect to see their work in the next couple of weeks and hopefully be moving that towards a development agreement as well. So we're making great progress there. And that's one of our main goals going into next year, as well as continue redevelopment of what we now call the Swift District, all those properties that are adjacent to or near the Swift line station at Oakton, and basically creating a transit-oriented development around the train station. And finally, from highlights of last year, we adopted a new framework for our economic vitality strategy. The Economic Development Commission reviewed that. And as we go into the next fiscal year, we're going to be taking a deeper dive into each of the focus areas of that. We have one of our first ones coming up in the next month, where we have the topic of life science from a business recruitment and attraction perspective is going to be discussed. And we have experts from World Business Chicago and Intersect Illinois coming to present to our Economic Development Commission. We're going to do that at the Science and Technology Park. We have a new economic developer at the state level that handles the life science space. This will be your first trip to Science and Technology Park. So critically important that we expose her to the opportunities we have there. So events coming up, I wanted to just point out a couple of new things. If you haven't seen the early promotions in downtown Skokie this summer, we're hosting Clue, a walking mystery tour. There these 12, this is the interactive event. There's 12 sites where there'll actually be clues, literal furniture put inside the business. You have to go find the clue. There'll be actually actors. We're partnering with the North Shore Performing Arts Center with this on. The company that does this has done it last year in Chicago, Tampa Bay. I'm going to forget all the cities. Boston, and we got to come to the Skokie. So we're really excited about what it's going to bring. There's going to be about 10,000 tickets available for this event over the 3.5 weeks that it runs. So that will generate a lot of foot traffic in downtown. I know I'm taking up a lot of time, so let me see what I can make sure I cover with you. If I didn't, yeah, so we try to celebrate every year Manufacturing Month, which happens in October and is a Manufacturing Day. Last year's event is we had the opportunity to partner with Oakton College and Niles, both West and North, and we brought 40 students on a career pathways journey that day. We took them to Oakton to see the CNC and machining labs. We also took them to the Science and Technology Park, and they got to tour the Materials Discovery Research Institute facility. And then we took them to a business we have in town called Boombox Beverage, which is they make and can unique coffee drinks they might find. And actually, some of the students that went on the tour went on to actually work there at Boombox. I think 7 of the students at some point were employed at Boombox. So this past month, we had 9 students from Niles Township West that are part of the DECA program. And we've actually retained them to provide small business consulting to some of our downtown businesses. And so they went into a number of businesses and helped them with their search engine optimization, claiming their Google pages. They're actually designing and developing websites for some of the businesses. They have industrial 3D
3D printing capacities at the school, so they're printing with window graphics and logos for a few of the businesses. It's been a remarkable program, so we're gonna keep building on these as we go forward. One of the goals of our economic vitality strategy is one of the first things we did last year was really map out our whole ecosystem of entrepreneurship and economic development, understand who all our partners and stakeholders are in that ecosystem, what talents and skills they bring to it, and how do we leverage them. We don't have to do everything ourselves, right? Sometimes it's just about referring businesses to the right resources. So as we go through the next year and we flush out some of the finer points of the strategy, we're going to invite all the stakeholders in each of the focus areas to this discussion table and try to really build the most robust ecosystem that we possibly can, so that we just do a better job than all of our competition out there, and we're getting more wins for Skokie.
Sounds great. Very good. Thank you so much. Great work. I'm also excited about the work that's being done in this building, but I'm really excited about a new group that's formed in downtown Skokie, the Downtown Skokie Merchants Collaborative, which is sprung up from the merchants, and they often know best. And so I know that our staff are working with this group of merchants, and they're just starting to kind of get their wings to be able to function on their own. So it's more to come on that, but it's an exciting initiative. Any questions? Yes, trustee Leader.
So I love the development downtown, love development of Old Orchard, that's great, love storefront on me. But economic vitality also includes other economic sectors besides retail, and we have this light industrial area. So what are your plans for revitalizing that area and also the other more, the other like apples to apples retail corridors that exist away from downtown and away from the Orchard?
It's a great question, and I appreciate you doing the mind reading that you're doing right now, because we have great lengthy conversations about this. So part of what we outlined in our goals for this budget year is the experience we could cite that we had in downtown and started on Main Street. We haven't yet applied that to Dempster. We haven't done that with Chewy. We have not done it yet in Industrial Park. So that's the goal for this year in the most simplest form. That starts with a grassroots effort. How we generally approach it is to really dive into each of those particular geographies, into who owns what, who occupies what, really understand the histories of those properties, start to build those relationships. Then, as Mayor Tennis just talked about, find the opportunity to start convening them in discussion groups. Help those grow into active merchants groups, help them develop their own direction in terms of policies, ordinance, funding needs and issues, and then translate that into policy and the budget. Takes time. It's a lot of geographies, but I think our goal this year is to make great strides in advancing the Main Street merchants group next. Start setting the foundation for Dempster. And each of these are such unique geographies, they all have different challenges and characteristics, and same with the industrial park. So we're not going to get them all across the finish line in one fiscal year, but I think we can make good progress on each of them to get them set up for success.
And I also hope that the model that's being put in place by the downtown group, they've expressed the leadership. Madeline England from Meets and Wants has said she will help bring that same model and vitality, and it's going to look different everywhere, but she's willing to help. She's a Skokie resident. She wants to, like we all do, wants to see our community flourish. So we need to tap those partners as well. Trustee Schechter.
I have a question about the area around I guess it would be the Science and Tech Park or the Oakland Station. Is there a sort of method to, when developers come and want to do a project, and you were mentioning Cleveland and Skokie Boulevard. Is there an effort in the village to be sort of affirmative and say, okay, we want these kinds of synergies? Or, looking, for example, right now we're looking at as well at the Lincoln and Oakland, intersection, but what extent do we think sort of holistically?
Yeah. Very much so. Sometimes, it's happening just more in internal conversations. So, and again, just to go back to the Main Street as an example, we adopted the Main Street Commercial Corridor Plan last year. There was years of thought or work that kind of led up to the things that created action to do that. So you think holistically, you talked about the branding of the Swift District, right? Really understanding that those sites aren't just individual development opportunities, collectively they're in the neighborhood, right? That neighborhood that we're backfilling, if you will, is oriented around transit and the opportunity of jobs, science and technology park, as well as adjacent to downtown. So that's the whole holistic approach. That's we talk about it every day, yes, and we pitch development ideas to developers that come through and show them opportunity sites that aren't things that even have signs on them for sale right now, right? That we're looking 2 or 3 corners down, around 2 or 3 corners, what could be possible, so. And just to add to that a little bit, zoning is also a way that we look at that, and so the downtown is the CX district, and so it's designed to have height and density. The OR district up by, Old Orchard Road and the Expressway, and so that now accommodates housing where 25 years ago it didn't accommodate housing. So zoning is another way that we kind of look at a macro perspective.
And another question I had, we talked about 3 TIF districts, but technically Westfield, that special, it is like a TIF. There's a 23-year lifespan to that special 1% tax. How is that? I'm just curious, like what sort of revenues are you seeing with that? Are we? There's no opportunities for looking at some kind of revenue sharing.
So that agreement, as I understand it, is different than a TIF. And it's a business district, and the funds, the funds that are generated by the agreement that was put in place, and Trustee Robinson, he voted on it, are used by the mall ownership for improvements. I think I would like to take a look at that agreement, just to, see what it calls for and make sure that the mall, that they're upholding it. Looks like they are. The mall looks great, and they're always doing something there. Trustee Robinson, do you have thoughts or comments on that agreement?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was for business district, not a TIF. So I think kind of re-educating, bringing some light to what the agreements were could be helpful.
Yeah, so maybe we'll put that, whether it's at a board meeting, or we'll figure out a way to get us all kind of up to speed with the tenets of that agreement. There are other discussions that we're going to be having with the mall ownership in coming months about some other aspects of the mall that involve the village and some village-owned property on the mall that's on actually the Westfield footprint. So stay tuned on that.
Just one other, the last thing, just on page, the bigger document, page 412, it just talks about estimated revenue from the real estate transfer tax of about $1 million available for economic development purposes. So that's gonna happen.
That goes into the economic development funds.
Yes.
So that John,
Right. Anytime a piece of property is sold in the village, they have to pay a local village transfer tax, and that is collectively now development fund. We don't really have a crystal ball to know exactly how much gets bought or sold each year. So.
any other questions? Yes, Trustee Kamani Levy.
And I think I tried to ask this earlier about, and you might have said a little, you talked a little bit on the business recruitment. What type of costs is associated with that recruitment process?
So not so much cost. I mean, we have a very modest, I think, budget compared to most. It's just a lot of hard work, groundwork, legwork, phone calls. Cost comes in at the point in which we identify a potential developer and align them with a piece of property. And again, if it's in the TIF, there might be a TIF incentive discussion if their project needs financial assistance. If not, then some of the other tools we rely on are again the storefront enhancement program. There's small dollars and cents. For small businesses, they make a immense difference. You know, just thousands of dollars might be the difference between making it happen or not.
So, follow-up question, you talk about the developers. How do we apply the same process to large revenue generators? So like the Amazon, I think a couple days ago, we talked about the Amazon, warehouses and like, the third. Do you apply the same process of practice to pulling those like larger companies in larger.
Sure.
To so.
Yeah, yes and no. We work in supporting traction of businesses or developers in all those spaces. You know, in the case of Old Orchard, they have a whole team of people that's doing that as well. So we're largely more supporting or collaborating with them on those projects. We developed the mall as a new manager in the last year as well, and developed a terrific relationships in terms of how we collaborate. You know, in the industrial space, that happens differently as well. There's a lot more brokerage related activity that happens. We have partners and other vehicles that deliver opportunities to us through the state. We subscribe to a number of lists, so larger industrial or manufacturing site selections are happening through these other processes that we subscribe to. And so if we have properties that fit the requirements, we'll submit those. If we're recruiting more retail or commercial businesses, some of that is, you know, just us directly feet on the ground, going out and doing the hard work and saying, we want you in Skokie. How do we get you? Let me show you properties. And at any given day, we could be working with a developer that's proposing $100 million project to build, and helping someone that's, you know, struggling to get their dream business. Johanna talked before about how we try to recognize, you know, everyone we service. They're not just putting in a deck for wanting to install kitchens, or, I mean, these are usually their dreams, right? We treat everyone with that level of service. Did I answer your question?
Yes, and I'm just trying to understand how we're pulling these larger revenue generators that could potentially, you know, provide us with revenue dollars and provide residents with jobs and, you know, all the things.
I would add that some of the work is pulling the businesses in and helping them come here. It's also making sure the spaces that they land into are ready to go. And sometimes that's some coaching with commercial landlords, like, hey, you need to get yourself vanilla box ready. You need to do this, you need to, and so I would say the staff at Economic Vitality is very good at some of the sales, both to ourselves and to people who want to come here. And I think when you work in economic development, I did that before I came to Skokie, you're almost like always selling your community. You're going places outside of the region, outside of Skokie, and you're like, hey, do you want a different location? I see this, and you wear a different set of glasses all the time. And so I think that's part of what that is. So the recruitment efforts are really staff time for the work that we're doing. It's less like we're not generating a big call list and going at, you know, it's not like that kind of work. It's what are, you know, the things in downtown. We need a flower shop, a women's boutique, the things that sort of complement, that make that mix. How do we go after that? It's like, okay, economic vitality, let's go after cafes for this spot in Debster, and we sort of circle, we were talking about coffee shops. So we had a little list of like coffee shops that we had to go after, and so it's just that it's the sunk time of staff time to go after, but it's also making sure that we have the spot ready for the, and that's all balance.
I appreciate your question though, from the perspective of, you know, how does that translate to revenue generation, right? Ultimately for our community, for us as the village. So we're always mindful and cognizant of that. And again, it's about wanting to see increased investment in properties, right? And properties brought up to a standard so that their assessed values are higher. You know, a lot of what we work on strategically in terms of some of the planning work is we're in the process of really transforming stuff, right? That's 6, 7 decades old and worked economically at a different point in time, and it doesn't work now, right? And each one of those things in each place in the village is a different challenge. So. But it's exciting.
Any other comments? Trustee Iverson.
The Chamber of Commerce, what role are we playing now and in the past?
So we have a very active membership in the Chamber of Commerce, one of the larger ones in the region. You know, I know they're going through some transitions right now. In the past, Trustee Iverson, they were relative to our relationship, you know, one, the referral source for business opportunities. So when we needed to align one of our clients with somebody, we could rely on the chamber for that. We partnered with them on all the ribbon cuttings and grand openings. They ran those through the chamber. So again, we rely on it really as a networking I think resource primarily, as most of the members do, to have that referral and resource system that it provides. And probably the largest.
So, what I'm mindful of just with this is how important economic development is to supporting everything else that we've heard about, And what I also am mindful of is when you think about all the different sectors, in just this 20-minute discussion, retail, industrial, large and small retail, office, life sciences. And again, we're very, very fortunate to have such a broad and diverse economic sector mix in Skokie. And I know historically that has helped us weather recessions. It has, because we have not been overly reliant on one sector or another. But to Trustee Schechter's initial point, the funding for this, you know, again, this is what drives so much else. So I think we're going to be talking about this. My hunch is that a lot of this is going to come up front and center during those important strategic planning discussions that we're going to be having starting in the summer. Trustee Schechter, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's almost a semantic thing. I mean, instead of using the term expenditure, we're not spending the money, we're investing the money for returns.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. Thanks to everybody else who works on the team.
Thank you.
Thanks, village.
Okay. So, okay. I want to we're going to welcome our Performing Arts Center Fund group, but before I do it, John and I have been communicating a bit over here in grade school fashion by passing notes back and forth. It's awfully late. We're coming up on the 4-hour mark. We have an important discussion at the end of this plan on revenues. I am going to table that part of our meeting for tonight. I think it's been too long of an evening. It's too important of a discussion to start at this hour. John and I have some ideas on how we can have that discussion at a different point in the very near future. But I just wanted to kind of let you all know, we're not gonna be burning the midnight oil. It's too important of a discussion to have this late. So Finance Director Premi, again, it's up to John, but you sat here, you know. Yeah, so, sorry, Julian. Okay,
Do you need to have a vote on that?
no, I don't, no. If it were a board meeting, we would. This is more of a workshop setting, so we don't, but thank you for asking that question. Performing Arts Center Fund, we have Terrence Goulet, who's the chair of our Performing Arts Center Board. We have Lynn Cannon, who's the executive director of the North Shore Center through Venue Works. We have HR Cook, who is part of the larger management team for Venue Works. And then, of course, we have Alex Franz, who serves as the village's staff liaison to the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts in Skokie, which is the full name. So turn it over to the team.
Well, first of all, thank you, everyone, for having us tonight. I know that you've been here a long time and that there are a lot of new people that you have a lot to learn. So I appreciate that you all are taking the time and asking the questions and understanding all of the different parts of the village so that you can understand how it all works together. Our part is the fun part, and although I am not a singer or a dancer, I would have loved to end this meeting by just performing and walking out the door. But tonight, we just want to tell you a little bit about what we've done in fiscal year 25 and what we're looking ahead to in fiscal year 26. The Performing Arts Center really is composed of four types of events, four types of things that we do at the Performing Arts Center. We've got two tenant companies, the Music Theater Works and Northlight Theater. Both of them have 4 to 5 productions a year at the two theaters in the building. We also have our rental business where we have a lot of different producers and organizations and fundraisers that go on at the center during the course of the year. And then we have our own self-promoted events and what we are calling our North Shore Presents. So we are looking at all those 4 different things coming together. Our calendar is very full. We have quite a lot of events at the center, and some of the data that we've provided in our packet for the budget meetings were to kind of identify what those things are. For example, in 2024-25, we had 56 events that we promoted ourselves, 42 different artists, and over 26,000 people attended for $1.6 million in ticket money generated. We are really trying to develop this audience to be a more diverse, right? We want to have some of the we want to really identify who is interested in different types of artists and what we can bring to the center and encourage more and more people to come from all areas. We bring people down from southern Wisconsin. We bring people up from Northwest Indiana. We bring people in from as far away as Joliet and Aurora to see events at our center. So we are not just a small community event center. We bring a wide range of people from a greater region to Skokie, and they spend their money here and they really enjoy themselves. I've got a little bit of data at the end from our own surveys that we took in the past year that really solidifies those claims that we're making. Last year, we really did look at more diverse artists. And in fact, 70% of the artists that we brought in last year were making their debut for the first time at the North Shore Center. That means 30% were coming back because they were so successful previously. So we do a lot of that as well. Our rental events include some of the highest quality dance companies and musicians in this region. We always have had a huge success working with Music of Baroque. The Giordano Dance Chicago group is coming back again this year. Ensemble Espanol has always done an annual show. They're taking this year off, but they'll be back next year with their, I think they're going to have their 50th anniversary next year. So that's going to be a big one for us. And then May is always our big local community dance recitals. And so right now, today we had Kaleidoscope Dance in the building rehearsing for their shows this weekend. We have 7 or 8 different dance companies from this local area who bring their kids to the center and really expose them to that first experience on the big stage. So it's one of those great experiences for the kids. Their eyes get big, their knees start to shake, and they really get that big smile on their face when they get it finished. Youth theater, huge part of our business, bringing the youth of our community to the center for field trips. I don't know of a better highlight of my elementary school days than remembering those field trips that we went on and having the opportunity to provide performance art to our students and giving them the opportunity to see something that has really become a lesser part of their educational experience. And giving them that exposure is really important to us as well. And we had over 6,000 students come through our doors in this past fiscal year for those youth performances that we were able to put on. The charts that we had in there were simply to provide you with some economic and demographic data about the shows that we had and the types of people who came to see them. But I would like to feature just a couple of things regarding how we're reaching those people. Our database of our email list is over 100,000 people strong, and with a theater of capacity of 867 in our larger theater and 318 in our smaller theater, we've got a pretty good way to get a hold of most people who have been here before and who would be interested in returning. Social media is a very inexpensive way to market shows, and we've continued to focus on growing that part of our repertoire as well, so that we can continue to market shows at a reasonable cost. And then we love to be able to work with our local community organizations. So we work with the North Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau, our Chamber of Commerce, the Kiwanis and the Rotary Clubs, the Public Library, the League of Chicago Theaters, all of these different entities that help us talk about and share the event information that we want people to know about. One of our most successful and fun events that we do every year is the fundraiser for our own foundation. And this year, our fundraiser was hugely successful. And we were able to raise over $40,000 for the North Shore Center Foundation in one event. And I know that our board and our staff here at the village really does support us so much in that event. So we're looking forward to another big event this fall. Looking at capital improvements, we were able to have the entire exterior of the building. Our final exterior thing to do was to get the exterior of the building painted last year. So now that if you've driven by or you've come from any of the angles of the building, the entire exterior has been refurbished over the last 3.5 years, and it looks fabulous. And now the landscaping is coming in, it's starting to grow, it looks really pretty out there, and we're excited to have that for us. We were able to receive a grant in the form of $130,000 from the Rice Foundation this year, which helped us really improve the technology in our larger theater. We were able to add center theater moving lights on the stage and to actually purchase a mixing console, which is a piece of equipment that is often utilized in our shows, but always had to be rented. So it was always an expense on our expenditures on our shows. So this is something that now we don't have to spend. We were able to actually own that. So it's a great thing for us. I know that Rod talked about our clue, a walking mystery, and it sounds very complicated, but really what it is you get to be the detectives, and you get to walk around downtown Skokie and in and out of the businesses and try to decipher the clues that are out in these different pieces of furniture and props, and talk to the actors that are out in the community during the time that these events will be going on. And we can host up to 90 people an hour doing these clue events. So they can set out in groups of 4 or 5 people at a time, go to different businesses, see what the clues are, and then they can come back and speak to the butler to see if they solved the whodunit with what weapon and in what location. So it should be a lot of fun, and tickets are already on sale. And one of the great parts for us is, working with the downtown businesses and the village staff to be able to bring all of those different things in North Shore Center out into the community. So one of the ways that we're going to be promoting this event this summer is to be a part of the community and be at, for example, Festival of Cultures this weekend. We've got 3 farmers markets lined up. We're going to be out at the Winnetka Music Festival. We're going to be out in the public, in the community, talking about the events, talking about the North Shore Center, because I think there are still people
who live in this community and haven't been to our building. So we want to make sure that we're talking about it and touching everybody that we can possibly reach this year. I am talking really fast, but I will breathe once in a while here. I did want to talk a little bit about the surveys that we do. We do post-event surveys, and I'm sure everybody who's ever gone to anywhere, when you get a post-event survey, and nobody ever fills them out, but we did really well. We have over 1,300 people who have responded to our surveys this year. And just to highlight the fact that we think we're making an impact on some of the goals that we set for ourselves. We asked people, how often do you attend events at our North Shore Center? Over 38% of them said that that was their first time ever in this past year coming to an event at the North Shore Center. So we've expanded our audience. We've reached people who have never been there before. The next biggest number was people who come quite frequently, actually 2 to 4 times a year. So in your dollars that you're spending on entertainment, if you go to the same place 2 to 4 times a year, that's a pretty good spot to go. Also, we're asking them, how do they hear about our events? Because obviously we advertise, we want to know if it's working. We want to know if, people are seeing it from us. And almost 70% of them said that they hear about it from an email we send or from our social media pages. So that's usually what people are spending their time seeing, and that's how they find out about events from us. We ask them, how do they buy their tickets? Ticket purchases are a huge part of what we do there. We want to make sure that we're making it as convenient as possible for them. 85% of them buy their tickets online, either from a computer or on their phone. So making sure our mobile services and our online services are up to snuff is very important. Make sure that those ticket purchases are very easy for them to accomplish. We asked them for what they would do is if they're rating how easy it was to purchase tickets, and this was actually the biggest surprise to me at all, because I always hear about the ones that have difficulty with purchasing tickets. 83% said that they're very satisfied or extremely satisfied with how easy it was to purchase their tickets. So I think that was a big, big number. And then helpfulness of our staff was another, over 80% of people highlighted that as extremely satisfied. And the cleanliness reached 96%. So the facility itself is very highly thought of. Finally, we asked people, would they come to another event at the North Shore Center? And 84% said they were extremely likely or very likely to come to another event. So I think we're in we're going in the right direction. We've got events people are interested in. They're excited to come to the shows there, and we're growing our audience. And that's one of the biggest things that we can do is to continually, whether it be the 5-year-old dancer who's coming for the first time because they're dancing in our shows on our stage, to a new resident who's just moved to Skokie and found out about us for the first time. We want to make sure that we reach every single person that we can and make sure that we're seeing them when we can get to them. The last 2 things I wanted to talk about, some major things that aren't happening in this fiscal year, but that we want to make sure that we focus on for next fiscal year, is that the North Shore Center is turning 30 in 2026. And so we're excited to be hosting our 30th anniversary year. And we're going to be looking for ways that we can really landmark that event, that 30th anniversary year, starting in the actual anniversary will be in November of 2026. And finally, that we know that Northlight Theater will be moving to their own building in 2026. So we will be looking for additional ways to bring great quality entertainment in our smaller theater. And now I can breathe. Yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Listen. Sorry. So do you have plans to woo other companies to have residency?
So there are definitely plans to be looking at what we can do. It's the most, the smartest thing that we can do in that. In fact, we're meeting, Nick and John and Alex and I are going to be meeting next month to really walk through that space and really envision what it can be. As a staff, we've gotten together and thrown out every, brainstorm idea that we can think of. I think we want to make sure that we're making the right decisions and making smart decisions about what that opportunity brings us.
At one point, that space where Northlight is converted to a flat floor. so that there could be banquets in there. There were at one time, there were trade shows that were actually in there. And it was a multi-day process to convert it back and forth, and it was expensive. And the system, my understanding, is no longer really functions.
It just hasn't been done in so long.
Right,
The
and
concern would be that
that's,
it's.
that space also is really in need of new seats. It was something that we tried to negotiate with Northlight and just always reached an impasse. So I'm sure that you'll all
Yeah,
talk.
we got all of those things on the list of things.
Trustee Sheck.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of trying to drive people to come to that physical location, I just was curious, have you ever communicated with the library? Because the library does a lot of, recitals and concerts and things that, and people will go there to that. Like, what if there was a library, an experiment where what would have been at the library goes to the North Shore Center and that could drive people.
Yeah, I mean, Nancy and I have had many discussions about how to promote our events better together. I haven't actually tried to talk about bringing events back and forth to those two places, but it's certainly something that we can discuss. I don't know, how that could possibly work. We have space available for rent, so we're looking for mostly organizations that are willing to, pay for that space and the labor and all of the expenses that go along with putting on a production like that.
And what made me think about it is I went to a production actually at the center, I forget the name of it, the one about Jewish life in France.
Oh,
the one
Prayer for the French Republic.
Prayer for the
Running right now, yes.
But it wasn't actually a Northlight production. It came from, it
was a joint
Theater
venture.
Wit,
Yeah, so it was a joint venture between Northlight and Theater Wit.
right? So the idea that another theater would, that there are those kinds of synergies.
Absolutely.
We've had other theaters in it before.
For sure.
The names are escaping me, but I know we have. I know, and usually it was during the summer, because Northlight would take a break in the summer, and there would be capacity.
Yeah.
For other theater companies to come. So historically, those would happen.
And in fact, that production has been very successful and they've extended it twice. So their closing week will now be Memorial Day weekend on that Sunday. So that has been very successful for them.
I still serve on the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts Foundation Board. I'm stepping away as vice chair. Our former village manager, Al Raboni, is the chair of that board. And Al's likely going to continue in that role. I'm going to stay on the board, but step away from being vice chair. But we are very interested, and I would like, I'm gonna wear a few hats here. Really looking at the possibility of naming rights for that center. I know the immediate past board chose to name a portion of the center after Mayor Van Duzen. And that is what it is for right now, but we would like to take a look at enhancing revenues for that center through naming rights. And it would need to be done appropriately in a way that is consistent with the community's values. There are best practices for naming rights because they don't last forever. There's a term, and so on and so forth. But that's something that we're going to be hoping to look at. So, Terry, anything to add about the Performing Arts Center board?
There's nothing that we have to worry about.
Good, good hands.
We've had some new members this year and they're very engaged, very interested, and I really enjoy having the conversations that we do at our board meetings. So you're all welcome to attend.
Very, very good group of people and I think they did what we would want for that part of it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you for making the trip from Davenport, Iowa. Wow, so much.
Dubuque.
Dubuque.
Still on, but I just wanted to say thank you very much to the board of trustees.
VenueWorks is very proud to be a part of the community, and this has been a wonderful partnership with Skokie and VenueWorks, and it just fits so well. We've had so much fun being here, and she's talking about the diversity. And it's true, we've brought a lot of things to here that we've also taken to our other facilities. So this is kind of a melting pot or starting point for a lot of the shows that go through our other venues. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you all.
All right.
I know. Oh, yeah, well, that'll be fine, we'll be there. Sorry.
So grant programming and then public discussion, if there is any public comment, and then we're going to this year. So grant programming, Alex.
Last but not least, tonight it's my pleasure to present the FY 26 grant programming budget. Every year on behalf of the Board of Trustees, the village provides grant funds to Skokie nonprofit organizations and government entities for community-centered events, programs, and performances. The purpose of the grants is to build a sense of community by providing Skokie residents with entertainment and cultural opportunities that bring them together. This year, the grant programming budget remains flat from the prior year, and like the prior year, grant funding is recommended for 5 organizations: the Sculpture Park, the Skokie Park District for the Festival of Cultures, 4th of July Fireworks and Backlot Bash, the 4th of July Parade Committee for the 4th of July Parade, the Talking Farm, and the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts for their youth theater series. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
A lot of
Short and
these are
sweet.
long-standing partnership grants. There's nothing new. Trustee Robinson, you've seen these, yeah, over the years. Any questions for Alex? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment. Sharon?
I just want to say that this is so exciting. I've been in Skokie since 1959. And I've seen it all. And it looks like it's getting good again. It feels good. The good questions, the good answers, the new good people, the wonderful new mayor. It's just very exciting. And we came tonight to hear all the different commissions and all the different things and the questions and the answers, and been really exciting. It's gonna be.
Those of you, Jimmy, did you?
Yeah, I agree. So I served on my commission a long 7 or 8 years, and then I think my mom has served on hers for over.
Stat Commission and Fine Arts Commission.
And sometimes there's opportunity to, meet other commissioners and kind of see what the work that they're doing is. We have, in March, the event and everything. But I think this was really nice because I've seen minutes from it in the past or something similar, and I'm like, I kind of want to see who some of these people are, really kind of recognize how it's all done, how it happens. I'm interested. It was really nice to see the questions that people asked. I think I was talking to Trustee Jefferson. I think it's important to front load the questions now, so it's easier to navigate it later. Because I had a lot of the same questions, so it was really nice to see like the conversation.
Well, thank you for coming out tonight, for staying with us for 4 hours. Okay,
Oh, and Pottery Barn is very nice. I'm not getting married or anything, but I am registered there.
Okay, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Is there a second? From Trustee Kamani Levy, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee Iverson,
Yes.
trustee L Levy,
Yes.
trustee Schechter,
Yes.
trustee K Levy.